push. This is big.
That looks like they're swooping in for
against the world. Can they do it?
So, really feeling good about this spot.
Focus is going to try and push into this dome.
They're running full blue on everybody is now. No, wait, hold up.
Not
That
going to end up taking it.
alternator.
Error being chewed through right now.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the final day of the regular split here for the Apex Legends Global Series. We are going to be casting today's matches for the Group B versus Group D matches and bringing you all the action. With me today, I'm Jamerson, by the way. It's going to be Dia to break down all the exciting games. We got 6 games that we're looking forward to. And Dia, what are you looking forward to most?
You know what? I think that what I'm looking forward to most is the high stakes on World's Edge. We've got 6 games in front of you today, and as we already saw in EMEA this morning, the sort of pace of those games increases time by time as we get closer and closer to your last chance to qualify for those playoffs. Most notably, you and I were talking a little bit beforehand, we've got some teams that are sitting just outside of playoff contention, and it's going to be a game of inches for those guys, so the tension is in the air.
That's absolutely correct. We have a lot on the line. It's not just about making playoffs, but also securing your spot in the next split as well. Relegations are just on the horizon as these teams, the bottom 8 teams overall out of our 40, will be knocked down to basically play the qualifying matches for split 2. But let's go ahead and talk about the overall format for the day and ALGS as a whole. Now, after 6 weeks of play, or 6 days of play, basically in a double round robin format, only the top 20 teams after the regular season will be moving on to the match point series that'll be taking place during the playoffs. Now, the 10 teams with the highest seeding will begin the tournament with advanced starting points as well. So when we're talking about stakes, we're already trying to set the pace for the playoffs with today's games. In the match point format, teams have to reach the 50-point threshold and then become Apex Predators, become the champions in a lobby, and they'll be able to win. Now, once a match point eligible, exactly, there we go. Once a match point eligible team wins a match, they will be crowned the regional ALGS Split 1 playoff champions. As we do note, it's kind of sad but because of what's going on, we can't, of course, ignore it. I mean, global pandemic, it's still going on. So the LAN has been canceled, and we are returning back to just regional playoff championships, but I'm still super excited about it. But let's go ahead and talk about the points and scoring system. It's nothing different than anything you've seen if you have been following competitive Apex Legends. Kill points matter and placement points matter.
Yeah, 12 points, of course, coming with that big win, the thing that we're all going to be hyping up, but something that you mentioned, the kills that come in for 1 point per kill can change games entirely. You can get 2nd or 3rd place and still score the highest in a match as long as you're cleaning up enough bodies to take with you into that post-game score screen. So I'm really excited to see how that can affect the outcomes of games, as it can double, triple your score at times and push you way out ahead of the competition. We've seen it before, and we'll likely see it again with teams that are able to solely via having an extremely high kill point game, rocket themselves out ahead in front of the lobby and make it nearly impossible to catch them. And within our GNR group, I think we're only fair to expect it.
Yeah, and that graphic that we just saw before, keep that in mind, because overall, after all 6 games, all 6 matches are played out, we're going to be using that scoring system as well. So if you finished in 1st place, you will get 12 points overall for the day, which actually leads to some interesting things that can happen when we're talking about the teams that are actually involved in today's games. Now, we were talking about it. We have relegations, we have promotions, we have the playoffs and the additional points for playoffs as well. And because of the scoring system, a lot of funky things can happen, Dia.
Yeah, there's some definitely weird edge cases that we do have to be on the lookout for. Teams that would normally be way far out of playoffs contention, especially with it being now top 20 teams instead of top 10. And the fact that the scoring system actually gives you 12 points after you come away with a win means that teams like Neanderthals, for example, that would normally be very, very far away from being able to make it in, now can start to crest into those top 20. You take a look at the teams participating today, and you're going to see all the ones that we'll be talking about. Neanderthals, of course, one of them. CLG, another one of those teams that really has to push their agenda today in order to keep themselves out of relegation. They're currently placed 40th here, 1 point over the entire season, Jamerson. I just want them to pick up another one.
Yeah, these are all the teams that are competing today. Now, this is, like you said, there are going to be a lot of weird edge cases we're going to have to keep an eye on. Like, if a team like Era, or like you said, a team like CLG, if they can get the win today, they'll actually save themselves and move out of relegation. And I'm not sure if they actually have the opportunity to try and make it into the playoffs. I don't think so. I think the cutoff might be a little bit too high for them, but there is a world if a team like Furia and Ghost just kind of just be completely absent today, right? That they don't make it in. One thing to note is that we do have, of course, 18 teams competing today. The notable absences of Team Sheesh and Benchwarmers. So this is going to be a different lobby. But let's continue to talk about what can happen for a lot of our squads. Like you said, we're looking at Furia and Ghost. They're on the bubble of cresting into basically even being able to make it into the top 10 if they have an amazing performance today.
We are, and at the same time as we're looking for teams to claw their way in, we've got to think about the teams that are already right there on the edge cases. Specifically today, when I'm thinking of that, I'm thinking 100 Thieves, and I guess in a very edge case, I'm thinking of Lazarus, but really it is 100 Thieves that, as of right now, are placed 17th overall, and you get a few teams having really nice days, and all of a sudden, you can find yourself out of playoffs entirely, so keep your eyes on them, because if they're falling early, it could mean so much more than losing games today, because you could miss out on your opportunity to jump into those playoffs. The top 20 teams, of course, that you see on your screen right now are the ones that going into today at least have their spot locked in.
Yeah, I mean, well, we could say like the left-hand side, right, are fairly safe, especially amongst the top 7 from TSM on up. But everyone else, as long as they have a decent performance here, they should be able to make it in. But now we're looking at the teams like Renegades, Noble, Premier, Lazarus, all have a shot of making it into the top 10 with a halfway decent performance. If any of these teams can actually hit like top 5 for today's lobby, they can actually put themselves into the top 10, get the extra points for playoffs. And you can see the notable absence of teams. We were talking about Furia and company that are looking to try and break in to the top 20 here. You can see 11 points. That is what the current cutoff is for top 20. So it is definitely doable for a lot of our teams.
Yeah, literally, if you get one win at this point, you're basically qualified for the playoffs. Of course, everybody is going to be accumulating points, and that's going to adjust things quite a bit. But because the fact that it cuts off at 20th, and that's only 11 points, really you can have very few find a win and still send yourself into those playoffs. Things like Neanderthals. I know I'm a silly guy for believing in them, but you know I always got to give them the old ooga, the old hype up. Neanderthals definitely one of the teams that we've got to look out for. But we've come up with a few others that you can keep your eyes on if you're not familiar with competitive Apex, or if you just want a little bit more guidance. These 4 on your screen, definitely some big favorites to keep your eyes out for.
Yeah, G2, after stumbling in the first 2 weeks, in the last 3 matches that they've been able to play out, they have been really returning to form, breaking away from that Valkyrie meta, and I'm glad that they did so, because now they have an opportunity with the performance of Esports Arena the other day to try and break top 3 now. So G2 is definitely a squad that we want to look out for. They're a squad that's high flying, that can absolutely fry. Whenever we join on board with them, it's usually a highlight reel. But if we want to talk about highlight reels, almost every single week, NRG has shown up. Once again, we'll see if they can finish off strong this season. They have been one of the most consistent teams throughout the regular season, and well, what more could we say as well for Esports Arena now? But the thing is, we're talking about consistency, and they just had a shakeup on their roster.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. I mean, we talked about how we had 18 teams today. One of the teams, Benchwarmers, is kind of split into every different team. You can see one of their members in Esports Arena, one of their members in Ghost Gaming right now, and yet another participating in ALGS Pro League on Torrent. And with the new member does come a little bit of growing pains, right? In Esports Arena, definitely one of our top teams going into this week, now has a little bit more to prove, especially after the performance that you mentioned just yesterday, where they did look a little bit shakier. Noct is extraordinarily talented, but Verholst, having now gone to TSM, has removed an element of stability that ESA has always relied on, and now they've got to prove to us that they can not only reach those high highs that this roster is still capable of, but keep themselves from bottoming out.
Yeah, I mean, the important part is that we put it in quotes there. They had their worst performance, and you have to remember that week in, week out, I don't believe Esports Arena performed lower than a third place finish in the day. And yesterday overall, they only ended up getting 2 points. Now, this point system, it doesn't completely reflect a team's performance, but this was not the kind of performance that we were expecting out of Esports Arena, who were able to get top threes in like 4 out of 6 of their games, which shows how consistent they are when it comes to the macro play. And so we'll see. This is going to be very important, as they should. It's almost impossible, right? It is impossible mathematically for them to be knocked out of the top 10 here. But it's a good indicator to see how are they going to adapt when it comes to the playoffs. How is not going to fit in? These are important matches for them, especially with the stakes for so many other teams that will be taking it seriously. That this isn't just going to be some games where teams are just running it down mid, right? And so they'll be able to use this setting to really try and finalize their playstyle with Noct. Now, talking about finalizing playstyles, like you said, Benchwarmers, a team that just kind of parted ways all throughout and diffused themselves throughout the ALGS. Ghost Gaming now has Madness joining in for the place of Metro. You know, I was able to watch some of Six's stream, and he just said, you know, there's no bad blood. It's just something wasn't working. We needed a change, and so we're going to try this out. And they're fairly comfortable. I mean, looking at their scrim results and how they were performing, it looked like they were meshing well. The communication style there with Madness was extremely strong too. Now, it's such an interesting thing because Madness is a champion upon champion upon champion. He has won so many ALGS titles, and so now you're adding on that kind of veteran status onto Ghost Gaming, who's been having a pretty much troubled season so far.
Yeah, they've definitely had a really rough time, and I remember, especially with this matchup, Group B versus Group D, I remember them having an even tougher go of it the first time around because NRG likes to land basically right next door to them and really make games difficult. One of the things that I'm curious about with Ghost is with the addition of Madness, like you were mentioning, who was previously the IGL for the Benchwarmers, how that's going to jive with Six and the way that he likes to call out their own macro plays and micro plays even, because Madness is a player that can take those responsibilities onwards, but he's also a player that is a really amazing fragger, and if they want to try and enable him through that sort of play style, I'd be open to seeing what sorts of skirmishing ability that brings to Ghost.
Yeah, I mean, Ghost is going back to basically what G2 has found success in the last few weeks as well, right? Running the Wraith, running Gibraltar, running the classic composition, where everyone just feels a little bit more comfortable on those legends, having the Bloodhound as well. And so these are teams that rotate, that like to play on the edge, that try to find rotates around. Now, this is going to be interesting here because we noted that it is 18 squads where we have a notable absence of 2, and that means that leaves some spots open on the map. So when we head into game number 1, we're going to be keeping a close eye on that mini map to see exactly where everyone drops. With Sheesh gone, there's Lava Siphon open, and with Benchwarmers out, that's going to leave some Skyhook territory, Fragment West territory open as well. And so will Furia want to stay in Skyhook, or maybe they'll go ahead and take Fragment West? That allows them to avoid Furia, who already, I saw Tech tweeting out today, you know, stay away from Countdown and Trials because this is going to be the trademark Furia 8 zone. And so there's a lot of things to consider when it comes to game number 1.
Yeah, I really like that Furia has taken the liberty of adding Trials to their loot pool recently. It's definitely made them a lot more aggressive of a team when it comes to challenging POIs like that. I think it's also a really fun time to play the minigame of exactly how many POIs does Esports Arena get, because at least in the past, people have been pretty vocal about the fact that Big Mod is extraordinarily powerful, and more often than not, Esports Arena gets to lay claim to both Lava City and Big Mod, setting themselves up in a really big way for later on in the game with weapons that are really, I think, underestimated in how powerful they can be in a competitive lobby.
Now, that's what I'm wondering, right? With 2 POIs open now, I mean, we have a team that drops close to Esports Arena, which is Legacy MX, dropping down over at Dome. At least that's what they did the last time we had Group B versus Group D in week number 3. And so that might actually open up a possibility for Legacy MX to try and take Lava Siphon or Fragment West. And then you have Esports Arena having that huge cresting moon down there on the southeast side of the map. That might actually help them in this regard, having to deal with less teams. This is a squad that likes to late rotate. This is a squad that likes to walk in with zones if it pulls heavy north. They're okay with looting in zone as well, and so having a free dome could be helpful in this restructuring for Esports Arena. Now we have about 30 more seconds to go before we head into match number 1 out of 6 for the day. Like we said, we got a lot on the line, and so keep a close eye on everything. Every small decision can really kind of mount into bigger troubles or even bigger victories later on. And so I'm just really excited to see how the teams kind of set their mental for today's games.
Yeah, the consequences of today's matches are going to resonate with everybody, whether you be a playoff team that has already been locked in and you're refining your play style to be able to best the really cream of the crop when it comes to ALGS Pro League, or whether you're a team that's just struggling to make that cutoff, keep yourself from being relegated even. The stakes have never been higher, and that's the kind of thing that can have two very different polarizing effects on the lobby. As you already mentioned, we've got less teams, and normally I would say that slows things down. But there's a chance that with the stakes as high as they are, with the last day of Pro League upon us, that teams are more willing to take risks to try and get themselves points as well. And we've got to keep our eyes out for those teams that decide that aggression is the best path to victory.
Yeah, and speaking of cream of the crop, by the way, we have 5 out of the top 10 teams in this lobby, and the overall teams in this lobby for today. So this is one of the matches you definitely want to be keeping an eye on now. But here we go, dropping into World's Edge for game number 1. And I was questioning it. What's going to happen to Ghost Gaming with Team Sheesh gone? Where are they dropping? They are taking Lava Siphon. And it does seem like Team Noble might be taking, not Noble, are going to be taking Fragment West up there. And so that's going to leave Skyhook pretty open, and Legacy MX did note that Skyhook might be open as well, and so they go up there. And so a lot of our predictions coming true early on here, Dia, as it is going to leave the southeast side open for Esports Arena. But here we are on board with NRG. The last time groups B and D met, this was NRG's week.
Yeah, Kings of the West really was the name of the game for NRG. They had a staging zone, a fragment zone, and almost a thermal zone that they ended up coming away with big. So keeping your eyes on, of course, how the zone will relate to how they play is a really important thing at the highest level of Apex. And this time around, it's honestly pulling kind of in NRG's favor for the first day. With Premier landing so close by, with Furia around as well, these are going to be 3 big powerhouse teams moving into the end game because they've all got very simple ways to secure choice real estate.
Oh boy, how familiar are they with Furia's rotates though? As looks like Hill is going to keep an eye on them for now. You can see the kind of reticence they had in trying to push into Countdown. Because you know that Furia likes to go for this wrap. They like to go through Skyhook to pick up any remnants of scraps, any extra loot. And so Premier are just going to fly past them here. Take a look at Space Station Gaming. It's going to be a quick flyby by both squads. SSG did not have a beacon for themselves, so they go ahead and do a quick flyby and they'll pick that up for now. CLG, this was a team that I was considering maybe they change up their drop spot for this game. They're going to be staying over here at Landslide, and Landslide is going to be troublesome just because the loot is not great. It takes a while to loot as well, and then you end up kind of getting sandwiched with Furia, NRG, and all these other heavy hitters in the area.
Yeah, and it's something that you don't get to know when you're initially dropping in. You only find out where the ring is going once you've landed, but definitely after landing in Landslide and then seeing that the ring is coming to you, you do feel kind of disappointed because now you have to get kills in order to have actual access to loot. You can't leave otherwise. NRG, though, they've already started rotating over, and they've found the Neanderthals trying to push their way in. I genuinely think that you could see NRG going aggressive here. There aren't that many teams around just yet.
We did see SSG starting to come up behind them after they got that beacon, made their way through countdown. Here come the nades. They're stuck inside the trailer. Big hits with those nades, forcing out the bubble. But here we go, another nade in. That one actually misses out, and the EMP is going to slow down NRG as they back off to reset and hit those cells for themselves. But they know that they've got the armor advantage. They know that really not much came off that EMP, and that's going to be one less tool for them to play off of here. NRG notes internal timer on these fights. You're gonna have teams rotating in, and so they have to weigh their options. How heavily are they gonna commit to this fight?
Yeah, we saw Premier coming up from behind from behind the Neanderthals as well. Exeter off in the distance over by Countdown, and that choice real estate that we talked about is starting to get more and more pushed. I wouldn't mind a little bit of an EMP here to try and farm up some shields as well, since Premier aren't too well off just yet in terms of their own loot. Trying to take a more longevity-focused position underneath the bridge. It's one that needs to scale for the late game, but sweet. Oh, Lord, getting stuck with the Arc Star really hurts.
Yeah, he's going to be able to heal up, though, and it doesn't seem like there's any real pressure right now. So we're still at 18 squads, which is basically what we started off with. You can see Premier getting punished by playing in that middle bridge position, forcing out a bubble where this is the spot you want to play. This is really bad looks for Premier right now. They're still sitting on double white armors, and so they have a long way to go. And honestly, typically for a lot of these zones, I feel like this is one of the worst spots you can be in if you don't have the meds to back it up, if you don't have the armor to back it up. And so Premier, we'll see if they can scrap this one together. For now, you can see plenty of cells for Crook at this point, but still no progress made on his Evo shield.
That's going to be a really big problem for them, not just now, but even later on into the game, because the actual likelihood that this pulls around Premier is pretty darn high, but that means that the war of attrition is only going to get harder, and even from above, you've got two different squads that honestly are much better suited to be able to drop down on you and potentially try and wrestle that away. The other side, though, does give us a little bit more info, as staging is not the only place that people are fighting over. There's also going to be a little bit of positioning over by Harvester to keep your eyes on, and 100 Thieves at the very least, holding up on the high ground, are going to try and be the ones preventing that. Currently sitting in 17th place. These guys have had a pretty darn consistent season, but still, I think could use that breakout performance. 100 Thieves has not been a team that has impressed anyone with their dominance just yet, even though they are our former champions.
Yeah, they had their work cut out for them in a lot of the lobbies. Being down there at launch site, you know, I feel like that's still a very troublesome drop to have in a lot of the lobbies when you have to deal with teams like Sheesh, when you have to deal with teams like Sentinels. Trying to rotate out from the south, if you get a northern zone or even a central zone, can be quite difficult to move through. But Renegades now coming through, having a very similar story, have a better rotate. A lot of the times we see avoiding a lot of those fights, and honestly, for the most part, I see Renegades on his trying to trail and keep track of G2 in a lot of these lobbies. It's interesting how these dynamics work out when we have this kind of double round robin format. But there we go. We get a better look at the ring overall, and so there is a chance this goes landslide. But I feel like teams should be banking a little bit more on that staging side. As you can see, Renegades didn't full commit on to landslide themselves. They leave that option open. NRG keep that open as well by playing off the bridge here. And other teams, unlucky, CLG have set up early on, but I feel like this is not going to be the position for themselves. I believe, if I saw correctly, Ghost was also playing that kind of 50-50 waiting game. They were holding on that vault tunnel just outside of landslide, connecting on over. And so they're going to have a lot of teams looking to gatekeep if this ring ends up pulling away from landslide.
Yeah, and they may very well find themselves in a position to third party as well, with Unlucky taking height up here. They're opening themselves up to a lot of poke, and I feel like finally we get a breath of fresh air. We've checked in with so many squads recently that have almost no shields to work with. Ghost, at the very least, are not that way. They've got plenty, and with the exception of 6 being on the blue, still a pretty nice pickup. the very least, they're the ones that are in a relatively flexible position because they don't, crucially, have that data on where the next circle will be. They haven't gotten the beacon scan. This, while it is risky, it allows them to exit either side of the tunnel and still get their choice position as long as they can win the necessary 3v3 between them and whatever god spot they choose.
Yeah, that armor is just a direct result of Sheesh not being in the lobby, of them being able to take Lava Siphon. We know why teams want Lava Siphon and Climatizer. With the changes to the map, with the changes to World's Edge, those gondolas provide such consistent armor. If you're not coming out with blues, then something really went wrong. You should be coming out with purples. And speaking of that, Lazarus themselves are over here at Harvester, just camping the beacon for now, as Noble trying to peek on in over towards that vault tunnel. They're going to be met with Ghost Gaming, and surprised that, you know, both teams running mirrored composition here ends up in the same positions.
Now, we also know, like you mentioned, that Lazarus from behind should have heard these shots. I believe it was Noble that had left the portal behind earlier, so there's a chance that after scanning Beacon, Lazarus can come in and start to sandwich Noble as well. With next zone now on our maps, it becomes even more likely, because now Lazarus is going to know this and potentially put themselves in a position to take advantage of squads that are trying to siege out Ghost inside of the tunnel.
Yeah, Ghosts are going to be sitting pretty, though. They don't have to really worry about any teams coming in from landslide at this point. And so their main focus, their focus of scans are going to be down here to the south. Noble might actually be in the biggest trouble. Like you noted, Lazarus coming in through Harvester. We'll see what route they take to try and get in for this landslide ring, as we're seeing some really roundabout rotates. Like we said, Esports Arena like to take their time. When these rings pull away from them, they play hard edge. They take their loot where they can get it. They've already got triple purples because of it, and they'll be able to continue to move on. You can see their economy looks incredibly strong, as Dupe himself has 4 bats. And now here we go. The first move coming out now from Esports Arena to try and get into the zone. Oh, we do have a fight taking place. It looked like CLG might have been able to get a knock on to one squad. It's strictly over there answering back, taking out Nano, as Esports Arena are able to make this Valkyrie deploy, rotate into the Dorito building. They're going to be safe inside, but this ring does end up pulling away. We'll see. Maybe eventually they make a push for this beacon, but you've got to clear out this building first.
Yeah, Renegades were right there, and it's something Esports Arena just simply didn't have access to by the information, but Noct has already put in so much damage that ESA are absolutely dominating this building, forcing Renegades to give it up, but it's right into the arms of G2 that they would fall.
Boy.
G2 can come in third party this right now, and ESA really putting the hammer to Renegades. Are going to clean up that fight, not lose any health for it, get the shield swaps, and be ready to deal with G2.
Yeah, G2 are trying to find their opening in, but you can see the barrels add that extra little bit of cover, and the gas as well as deterrent for them as the defensive bombardment does come down. But it's the perfect reset coming out from Esports Arena. They were able to pick up all those kills as well. Noct will get this off, and I'm really surprised that Renegades just decided to not show any presence. You hear any inkling of a Valkyrie, you need to be out on your patio. You need to be looking to the skies to make sure that does not happen to you. Now, that's just a rookie mistake at this point.
It really is. Valkyrie has been in the meta for so long that Esports Arena are expecting people to just shoot at them sort of out of politeness. Be like, hey, by the way, both of us will die if you land here. And in this case, because Renegades don't, they end up being the only ones to go down in big part. And I like to see it because of the unique strength that Noct brought to this squad. Definitely laying down the damage with the Prowler at close range, as you expect and even need from your controller player. He ended up keeping them safe from G2, who were coming in right afterwards, and now they're in one of the more dominant spots in the lobby, or at least on a standard level. They've still got a pretty long ways to go, and I'm curious to see whether they choose to go through that landslide tunnel, or whether they try and take the train tracks where we know teams like NRG and Neanderthals are holed up.
Yeah, I mean, not to take anything away from Verhulst, right? Verhulst did an amazing job for them. But Noct is just one of those players. He's just kind of like a turnkey player. And it's great that they were able to fill out similar roles. And so he slots in extremely well. Like we said, they didn't have the best performance, right? It was, quote unquote, their worst performance earlier this week. But this is still an incredibly strong squad that still has growth potential. But speaking of another incredibly strong squad, they didn't have to move that far. They were playing the train tracks on that ping just to their south now, but they are starting to move their way on in. We know that a lot of the north side has been cleared out, but it does seem like some teams have tried to rotate throughout that area. And I know a team that's trying to make their way into landslide currently trying to make a siege on to Premier. As they've got the big cracks. Defensive bombardment is going to be forced out early on as the bubble is used just to walk up onto them as bad boys go for that reset. Barrels from Euban just to try and slow things down as they try to take control of this. Here it is, the Nox gas grenade right into the bubble. It gets the connect, but it's not getting the damage quite yet as he's forcing them out. This is like a roach nade as Kruk is the first one to fall. Hill will fall next, and now Ronnie's the only one left alive, brought down to a 1v1. But he will go down. It's going to be Legacy MX coming in for the third party. Jaguares is already here to try and finish him off. Defensive bombardment goes down on them as well. The Jaguars should be able to push up, and if he's got his wits about him, he should be getting these knocks on the ground, but that means it's taking way too long for him to clean up. He secures at least 1 kill point for his squad, but now Legacy MX, they're only going to be able to get 2 points off of this third party.
There may still yet be a fourth party coming in as well. Everybody knows that you're low right now. And CLG, we're looking at this, but are going to choose not to fully commit. Instead, hanging on to their high ground, lose out on the opportunity for potentially 3 more kill points. But G2 are not going to miss out on that opportunity. They fly all the way in right next to this RV and are likely going to take the fight.
Ashe Valkyrie, that's what they're starting off the day with, and so they're not going with that Bloodhound for now. Here we are in the top 14, trying to come in for the third party against Legacy MX, but we know that there are a lot of bodies in there, a lot of armor swaps. G2 need to be immaculate in this push, and when it comes to these, it is G2 getting that first knock as Chomax tries to answer back, doing a lot of damage, but between the two of them, they only have about 50 HP. There's the next knock as Designful takes him out, and that's going to be G2 cleaning things up. How many more teams are going to show up for this tractor? It looks like that might be the end of the action as now G2 slot themselves well here on the north side of the map, and doesn't seem like, unfortunately, the truck is actually in there, but they have time to reset and walk in with this next zone.
I tell you, it feels almost unfair, Jamerson, to watch that happen, to watch an alternator put in so much work and not get a knock. G2 just played that with so much confidence when approaching an RV. They tend to be extremely difficult to siege, but Legacy just were not prepared, and I don't think neither are Noble. We've got so many squads holed up in here. Lazarus right above them. Everybody wants to try and get inside a landslide, and let's not forget that Ghost are gatekeeping all of this.
So Lazarus, they do have that Valkyrie redeploy. They can actually just avoid this choke point. That's the beauty of being able to run that Valkyrie. So if they want to, they could just fly over to the western edge and avoid a lot of this fighting, but it will be a little bit blind as Dank ends up pushing out. Vize gets the knock. That's going to be 2 members of Noble down, and they're doing it in clean fashion. If they can get this last one, it means the redeploy will be free for them. Dank goes down, though, and that's such bad timing. 9 seconds now. They are on the border of the zone as well. A defensive bombardments go down. Dank needs to get res now.
And it's ESA that we're pushing in there. They ended up getting at least some knocks, but Noble got them right back, leaving ESA on the back foot, giving Lazarus time to res. Since it's a war on 2 fronts from our fellows over at Esports Arena. Now, though, with the bubble expiring, they are just going to get lasered through. This is another totally deadly sandwich with Ghost coming in on one side, making that piece of horrifying bread. They're going to retreat into the landslide tunnel, continue gatekeeping right now, and honestly, leaving you in a no-win scenario. This is round 4, and you simply do not get to survive this, whether you're NRG or not. It is absolutely terrifying. XZ are finding kills on the other side of the map, and Ghost just continue to clean up those last few members of Esports Arena, but have they been gate kept themselves?
Now they should be relatively safe here. Well, you did see at the end that teams were trying to throw some nades down, but for right now, X set were able to take this position up top. I believe they took out NRG throughout all of this, and so now we are down to the top. 800 Thieves making their push on in over towards Ghost. The Beast of the Hunt is popped, I believe, throughout all of this. Madness is the first one to fall as Vayne gets on top of him. The Thieves, though, with this bubble are going to go for the quick reset just in case the flank comes out, and there it is. OE Senpai coming in for the third party. This leaves an opportunity for Ghost to try and recommit themselves for this reset, but no, they'll get finished off. Prodigy Aces and company coming in for that now. As you can see, the final ring. This is actually a quite classic one. Back when this was Train Yard, we were used to seeing this circle, but now over here in Landslide, it's just going to basically project itself on top of that. And so we should be down to 6 squads for this final fight. As you can see, we got a nice little overhead. This isn't from our observers, this is from a drone. And one thing we didn't know at the beginning of the game is just how many cryptos we started the lobby off with.
Yeah, it's really unusual to see this kind of thing coming in from North America, but clearly the power of the crypto has overtaken a lot of people, and hey, with that comes a weakness of the Gibraltar as well. You can see that dome that's providing so much safety underneath Landslide can now just as easily be taken away by a nicely timed EMP in the end game. Era, one of our squads that are currently in position to be relegated at the end of today, need to be able to hold on. They've got a really nice position just on the outside of this ring, and should be able to get cover from a few of these rocks as well. As long as they can stay safe, farm up a few of these kills, there's a very good chance that they can even take the win as long as they play their cards right.
If they get the overall win, they can put themselves in the top 20. Now, that's a huge ask when you have so many teams that are just fighting for their lives. And speaking of another team that's fighting for their lives, CLG, 1 point overall, now pushing up, getting the first knock onto exit for this third party, but they have to be careful. You got Fury, you got G2, all here on the northern side right now. Resulta has gone down in the fray, but it looks like overall G2 went out that fight, losing out on one, gentrifying the only one up for G2. But CLG, they don't want to take the risk. They don't want to poke out because of so many threats. Now Era just down to Bowser, and he's got 8 shots left in this Kraber, but finally CLG, they hear that res, they push on out. They're going to secure these thirsts on the ground and finish off G2 in just a moment. They're going to have to reset though, as another team shows up now at the top. 3 teams remaining. It's a 3v3v1. Bowser has the opportunity to try and steal this one away. Team Era, but here he goes. He gets pushed, and that katana does nothing. It's Team Unlucky now versus CLG, and if CLG want to keep their hopes alive, not to get relegated after today's matches, they need to fight back. They need to fight back now because Salas gets the knock with the Kraber. It's a 3v2, and Oi Senpai knows it. He wants to push forward here. That bubble just a little bit short, so he can't actually push into that doorway quite yet, but CLG are forced out, and there it is. Unlucky, another knock. Vatro with that Kraber to finish it off, and it will be Unlucky taking game 1 of the day.
Good lord, that took a while there at the end, but CLG had put themselves so far into that RV that as soon as we came down to the top 2 squads, you knew there was no getting out. There's no way that you managed to escape that, and just controlling the space. Unlucky end up being the ones to get away with that victory. It was some pretty amazing stuff from them, but make no mistake, there were so many hurdles that were crossed to get there, not just by them, but by the likes of Furia and G2 as well, who sort of fell right before CLG. Those were the squads that, in an interesting way, were running a lot of the lobby, especially G2.
And I'm glad that we were able to basically keep track of a lot of the teams that were looking that we wanted to keep an eye on. G2, NRG, Furia, and everyone, because there's so many stakes, like we said. Now, this is interesting. It's going to be Unlucky starting off with the first win of the day. So if there's an opportunity for teams now to be able to try and move up the leaderboard and try and get out of relegations or even make it into playoffs, this is the run. So we'll see if Unlucky have what it takes. We're going to go ahead and take a short break. When we get back, we'll have game number 2 of the ALGS right after this. All right, welcome back, guys, to the Apex Legends Global Series. This is, of course, the B stream here for the matches between Group B and D. And already, for the first match of the day, we had, I think, what a lot of people would think is an upset, or at least a comeback victory for a lot of our squads. We talked about it at the beginning of the day, Dia, that for a lot of these teams, even though they're in the relegation territory now, with the win today, they can propel themselves into the playoffs.
Yeah, unlucky, definitely one of those. And I sort of commented to you, Jamerson, in the break that if you had told me that it would be unlucky, CLG, and Era as the final three standing in the last ring, I would have called you a liar. I mean, going into today, that's just not what we were ready for. But we're going to see how it got to impact the standings at the very end of it all, because we had some other very big players go out pretty darn early. Let's see how that all came to pass.
Yeah, this was just at the beginning of the match. NRG were expecting this pull over towards Landslide, but they were playing. And this was, I believe, Esports Arena's first rotate in. And we were both caught off guard. Renegades, typically a team that has a lot more fight in them, just got completely wiped. You can see G2 coming in from that late rotate out of Thermal Station to go for the third party, but Esports Arena, they're showing off how much experience they have now, going for that quick reset. Now, this was the trailer where fights were taking place non-stop. Bad boys pushing out Premier, and then I believe Legacy MX showed up, and then G2 show up at the end to clean them all up.
Yeah, that was really crazy stuff from G2, and given the fact that they weren't able to third party earlier, they were much faster on the trigger finger then. But this is the side of the map that I was kind of sad that we never really got to see. We checked in here for a little while, and you could see that ESA were trying to make their way in, but they never really made it through that tunnel, and Ghost never emerged. Never really got to see. We checked in here for a little while, and you could see that ESA were trying to make their way in, but they never really made it through that tunnel, and Ghost never emerged from it either.
Yeah, this was, I believe, one fight that we didn't really get to quite see. Yeah. NRG cleaning up SSG. Lazarus, I was rewatching it on the stream because of the delay. This entire time, they had the tools to skirt this fight, to avoid this fight, but they end up overcommitting, leaving themselves sandwiched. 100 Thieves come in here to try and clean up Ghost, but I believe Ghost end up getting the +3 and secure these points themselves before ultimately another team shows up behind 100 Thieves.
Yeah, that's something that I don't think that we got the chance to talk about at the time, but 100 Thieves kind of ended their own journey in this first game with that push into the landslide tunnel, leaving their back exposed. This time as well, CLG kind of did the same thing right there at the end, leaving themselves in the RV with nowhere to go. Unlucky had a really nice cleanup, and well, it ended up propelling them all the way up to the top of the leaderboards there, at least in this first game. A nice 22 points to start out the day is something I'm personally envious of.
Yeah, so that's a great start for them, along with CLG and Era. Like we said, these are the three teams that we're looking forward to see maybe they can turn things around. But G2 still remaining consistent. I mean, you know, we've had some back and forth across multiple broadcasts, you and I, about G2, but G2 are still now showing how consistent they can be despite, you know, pulling out different looks for themselves. So right now, our top 10, I think pretty much how we expect it, except NRG we typically see on the higher end of this leaderboard.
Yeah, NRG, I think we were very surprised to see go down, but to XSET, who find themselves in 6th, that was really cool, because XSET are also a team that, at least at the beginning of the split, have had a really difficult time, but actually ended up pulling out with some really nice performances, especially towards the end of the season, and most importantly, the consistency to get themselves a playoff spot. So to see them challenge the likes of NRG, who are Titans, is really amazing stuff. And I gotta say, I mean, you talked about G2 earlier, to bring it back there, the fact that they're playing with the Ashe now makes me so happy, because if there is a legend that fits G2's playstyle, it has to be Ashe. That go button that lets you go on the third party and find the death boxes from literally across the map is enabling their playstyle so well.
Yeah, and here is the second half of the leaderboard as well. As you know, we can note, of course, we do have 2 absences. This is an 18-team lobby. Now, for a team like Legacy MX, who want a shot at breaking into the playoffs, this is not a great first game for them. They did secure themselves the 3 kill points at the very least and 1 placement points. And so 4 overall. They've had a little bit of a rebound over the last few games, but this is not a good look. So we'll see if they can rebound for themselves. Noble, I think this is a decent performance enough out of them, especially for a squad that, you know, are just trying to maintain their position in the playoffs. For a lot of our teams, I don't know how much of them really have their eyes set on getting the additional points, being in the top 10, or if they're happy just making playoffs in, overall.
Yeah, two teams that definitely need to accrue those points, Furia and Ghost, did at least find themselves inside of the top 10 with a few points to bolster them. So my curiosity still is going to continue to lie around those guys and how well they can perform in reference to the rest of the lobby, because of course at the end of the day, points are pretty darn scarce. Based on your placement, you do get those 12 points if you're in first, but if you're sitting around that 15th mark, 15th to I think it's 11th, you just end up getting 1 point, and that wouldn't be enough to push teams the likes of Furia and Ghost into those playoffs. So we'll continue to check in with them. You mentioned Noble, and of course, for a squad like them, who I will say tend to have a little bit of a slower start to the day as well, this is totally acceptable and expected, but it's Space Station here that surprised me.
Yeah, Space Station being in the bottom 13. We'll see. They are a team that can bounce back. They do, of course, remain consistent generally over the long haul. Now, another team that has to be very worried now, Neanderthals. They are on the bubble. They are at 6 points right now, tied with many other squads. They're only 3 positions off from being relegated here. And so if Bad Boys, Era, and CLG all have great performance today, that could easily knock down Neanderthals into relegation. But here we go. We're getting into match number 2 of the day. We were talking about it during match 1. What's going to happen with all the drops? And now that question was immediately answered. We saw that Ghosts are going to take the free spot that is over at Lava Siphon now, Legacy MX, then swap out from Dome to go ahead and move up to Skyhook. And then we have, of course, the notable absence of, well, now a team taking position over at Fragment West, leaving all of the Southeast once again open for Esports Arena. And this time around, we're going to have a Southern pull onto this one. We'll see if it stays around Harvester or if it pulls down hard over towards Tree Dia.
Well, I'm really surprised to see that we're getting at least 2 central zones in a row, because like you mentioned, I mean, there is still some play within that, but importantly, it still does let a lot of teams that had a really good game in the first game try and sort of run it back. With Space Station this time not having to take a really northern rotate, they'll also have access to spots that they perhaps like a little bit more, especially because over here in Thermal Spring, they actually have the ability to get themselves that initial beacon scan to know that, holy moly, we are getting one of the very spicy zones, because there are 2 different sides that can be played to this, but that high ground right above Thermal Station, that gets very exciting.
Now, this did end up cursing G2 in the last outing that we had versus Group B versus D, where we had 2 quasi-thermal zones. G2 ended up setting up position early on that sniper tower because they do have that priority for it. But that did mean to rotate out when the ring eventually pulled away from them. It was that much more difficult. So have they learned their lesson from that? Will they try to play a bit more proactive of a zone? Or are they going to allow a team like NRG to come in Thermal Station and get the God spot here? Premier, try to rotate early, and I think they might be actually meeting up with NRG right now, just armor checking them. The first person that got checked was Hill. So that might give NRG maybe some more confidence to try and make an early push, but they do see the purple on Crook here. Now PGG, they skirted around NRG last time when they were trying to rotate down this way, but I feel like NRG should be able to back away. But we know that when it comes to a lot of these zones that can go down to thermal or be played, they end up playing in this position because of their priority coming out from staging.
Now, taking a look at the way that NRG are playing this, not only do we know it, but so importantly, a lot of the other teams in the lobby know this as well. If you're rotating in right now to thermal and experiencing a lot of pain, you know that it's NRG shooting at you. And in the same way, NRG have got to show us that they've learned from weeks past, because again, the last time that these groups met up, Furia ended up wrestling this spot away from NRG, who was dominating the lobby until then. extraordinarily easily. So keep your eyes out for NRG and the Furia interaction that could happen around this high ground, because it's happened to them once. It could happen again.
Yeah, and their armors, despite coming out from staging, only on the whites there. It's going to be Xset, though, who end up taking that sniper post position from G2. I'm wondering if this was just a fast rotate out of Harvester, leaving that available for them, or if G2 decide to try and play a different position off of this ring. NRG, though, again, with these fast rotates, teams end up hurting themselves on the loot department. You can see they're already there. Double whites for Rocker and for Sweet. Only 160 ammo total on that Rampage. You got 136 on Nathan here. So they have to be very diligent about their usage. You can see double energy as well. And so what is Rocker going to have to swap off onto? They got to kind of hope that they'll be able to lurk for a team kill here if they want to re-up in terms of utility. On board with 100 Thieves, who didn't have to move too far out from launch site as they get scanned in this tunnel here. And they're going to try and gatekeep this for as long as they can. But right now, you know, with so many teams alive, it's scary trying to take any fights.
Yeah, seeing 100 Thieves down here and getting scanned as well makes me wonder where we've got Renegades, who do like to drop in tree and have a pretty choice rotation, a very fast one. Have they ended up sitting just right next to 100 Thieves? Will they try and go on this push, since we did see 100 Thieves actually go out relatively early just last game in Landslide? Perhaps it's just the tunnel lifestyle that they enjoy.
Yeah, they might be getting scanned from above by Renegades, who should, like you said, have that priority rotate now. Era, though, making their way on in, playing hard edge currently here. If they weren't able to get the scan earlier on, they will have it over here at Fragment East, but it looks like they're just picking up a lot of free loot along the way, and they are posturing, so might be this beacon for them. And they do have Oxy Ares here just to get that scan. We'll have a better idea of where this one ends up going.
Yeah, this will give them the all-important information, and especially if you're playing hard edge, hopefully what the other thing that they'll have is information on where those other teams around them like to land, because especially when you're playing in a more aggressive way, being able to predict how everybody else will play out the game is going to be a really important skill. If you watched last game, and if Era had the chance to study up, you would have seen that Bad Boys ended up playing pretty hard edge in a very similar way around Fragment. There's a chance that they can actually catch them out on a late rotate.
And there we go. Our winners from last game, by the way, Team Unlucky holding up over at the Respawn Beacon building next to Harvester here. So not hard committing to either side. They will have that Valkyrie deploy if they didn't make their way past a lot of these choke points to get to the thermal station. But if the ring ends up pulling this way, they'll be safe themselves. Ghost, not too far away over on the eastern side of this spot, playing off of that beacon over at Harvester for now. And you do have Prodigy Aces trying to contest that high ground just across the ways, but Team Unlucky, this is a squad. I want to play this one out as cautiously as possible. A great start to the game, to the day, with a 22-point game number 1. This is what they need to propel them. They can continue to build up this momentum throughout the next 5 games to really secure themselves a spot in the playoffs. So we'll see if they can do that.
Yeah, having swapped out so much here, I made so many sacrifices to get to the top spot. Now that they've got it for one game, can they hold on to it? Renegades definitely holding on to the top spot in a very different way, as they've got a whole lot of height with the Ash initially, and NRG holding on to more meds than anything, since Sweet, at the very least, is operating on food stamps right now, just waiting for those next couple Evos, hopefully to get the most value out of the health meds that he has, but leaving his team in a very risky situation.
He's at 276 damage towards the red Evo for himself, so this is the ultimate greed. As soon as anyone postures to try and push, he needs to instantly hit a bat for himself. And so you can see they are trying to make this go as far as they can. You know, it was just the first of the month, and so that's not a good look. And you need to make your paycheck really last that long. But for NRG, you know, they do have some sites, and they're trying to keep track of all the teams that are around them currently. But it doesn't seem like anyone really, because this is the zone number 2, is going to be trying to push into the chokes early on. Now, what I'd like to see is where the rest of the squads are. G2 not taking that position in the center of Thermal Station, playing this one a bit more proactively like I was hoping to see, but now they're in some trouble trying to siege that building with the caustic inside. Resulta narrowly surviving that, and they're just gonna go ahead and avoid it now. Drop back down into Thermal here as Resulta gets tagged mid-air. Oh boy, he's gonna have to hit that Phoenix kid. They already used the bubble, by the way, so they're quite vulnerable. But it looks like a lot of players might be damaged right now as X-Set themselves have been forced out of their position. Renegades forcing them down onto the low. They get eyes on to G2 below them as well. As you can see, the next scan comes in. And so Thermal and the north side of Thermal all in for this zone.
Very creative use of the Ash by Renegades to get themselves this top spot, but something that is perhaps quite different, I'll say, from last game is definitely the pace of it, and it's being exacerbated by the spots that have been prioritized. The high ground so often has become, obviously, something that teams will try and prioritize over everything else, but it means that if you're constantly opting for spots up here, like an epicenter, you're not getting that many kills, and it leaves us with overall 18 squads approaching zone number 2, which, while perhaps is a little bit more standard for your normal ALGS games, this time, since we dropped in with 18 squads, it leaves me kind of wondering what everybody is doing with all this time. Surely the nerves must be getting to them, as Lazarus itching for a fight right now is certainly demonstrating.
Yeah, I think with so much on the line, so many teams are afraid, and they don't want to make the mistakes. They don't want to be the first team out, you know? And so we're seeing a lot more commitment to the edge here. A lot more teams just trying to skirt and avoid a lot of these center zone fights. Like you said, while typically that sniper post position, it can be played well. It has been played well in the past by teams like X-Set and others to get some decent poke, get up your armors, and steal away kills. But not a lot of teams are committing onto these positions, so you're not having a lot of fights. That means you have a lot less opportunities for the third parties. But Esports Arena, they do have a team caught out here on the edge. They have that caustic in the back pocket. If they have the Nox gas grenade, they can try to apply pressure onto whoever it is, and it's Team Noble now actually completely avoiding this one, dropping down onto low, and it looks like G2 have angles onto them, getting some decent shots up. That does free up that high ground for Esports Arena, as Noble are just going to try and skirt around a lot of the fighting here and make their way to the western side of the map, but they're meeting some resistance along the way.
You know, that's something you don't see every day. To have the team from high ground there drop into the lava to take a very fast rotation is highly unorthodox, because most squads are at least willing to take the gamble that you won't push them initially as long as they can do enough damage. But Noble not even willing to take that, end up opting into the low ground and now into a very risky position, as you already noted, with G2 on their tails. It's the most that they can do to try and heal up, alternating between these Wraith portals and try and get themselves some scaffolding. G2 very well could go for this.
Yeah, they're trying to play off of the jungle gym here, but they have to be careful because there's 2 jungle gyms in play, 2 teams that are down here on the south side. G2 try to get involved, but it's just Designful doing Designful things, really limit testing on this character to see what he can get away with, and he'll just back away for now. And so G2 unfortunately don't pick up anything. Noble will be able to survive that, and now we have about 5 teams proper down here inside Thermal Station. We'll see if the ring continues to pull and basically make this an arena map, but you can see the pings are going down. SSG want to try and push up a bit further north, and NRG are eventually going to have to come out from the eastern edge as well. We do have a fight taking place. It's going to be Esports Arena versus 100 Thieves. Onmu getting the first knock onto Duplex. Check in with that in just a moment.
Yeah, that could be a big upset here. We already saw Esports Arena leave us early in game 1, and now that Era's in a fight as well, we'll see if they end up being the ones to go out. Legacy MX putting in the work here with the PK, do quite a bit, but don't do enough as Era are able to clap back. Ghost now running up on the high ground though, want to try and finish off Oxy. Ares is running for his life off through Harvester and into the waiting arms of Zone 3. Ghost have no patience, they are just going for this.
Yeah, but he's fast, boy. He's got that Bloodhound popping this entire time, but Banners is quick on his heels. As you can see, Oxieri is still alive here, gonna take some damage, but it does look like the movement was enough. Unfortunately for them, unfortunately for Era, despite getting a top 3 finish, I believe, in that last game now, they're gonna be playing as a solo here, trying to rat things out for as long as possible. Panders has given up Ghost on Ghost. And we'll just go ahead and take that free loot for themselves. It frees up a lot of this eastern side for themselves. Now Lazarus are looking to gatekeep the teams that might be coming down here. This should be the team that might have actually bullied out NRG. We'll see as soon as they turn the corner if NRG are still up there.
They certainly should be. Lazarus definitely haven't put in all this work for nothing, though, and with full purples, could just now take all the momentum that NRG have honestly lost themselves by sitting up there with really nothing to do, then turn that into a bit of potential high ground control. As inside of this next ring, that high ground is still going to be king, and honestly will be until zone 4-5. Now with Lazarus instead, though, taking a different route inwards. They'll pop the Valkyrie ultimate and see if NRG are softened up enough to land on. Over here, CLG hanging on inside Dorito building are relatively safe, but with Furia on their backs, remember that they also would like to unseat NRG's power spot right now.
Yeah, they're just going to skirt around and completely avoid a lot of this, going over to the western side. Typically, this is a spot that's held by SSG, and seems like another team's actually over here as SSG took those buildings that G2 tried to push for earlier on. So as the bubble, as they land, as Davis needs to reset for himself all the way down, sliding as G2 might be on the other side of this one. Dank gets cracked here. Davis still needs to hit that, and it is. Resulta with the triple take, gets the knock, and now Lazarus are in so much trouble. We'll see Designful sets up that phase break, pushing onto Vize as he falls back himself. Now they still have not been able to recover, but these charge rifle shots nearly immaculate. Now missile swarm to see if he can get a knock, but that's enough coverage at the very least.
No.
Try to get the res, but here comes a defensive bombardment. Premier showing up from that high ground now, and they get him up with the bubble just in time. Lazarus barely survived that. The timing was off by just like half a second there. As you can see, now Z Davis, once he hits that Phoenix kit, he's gonna start hitting the ultimate XLs here because they are not out of trouble yet.
Not at all. Vize needed to heal up behind the rocks. Even still, almost goes down to G2. Lazarus could still be our next squad to go down, but in the kill feed, we've got somebody else showing up. It's unlucky that end up getting taken out by Ghost, and NRG are starting to roll up on that as well. They've moved out and down into staging and are hot on the tails of Ghost to try and get themselves some of the death boxes that would definitely help them out in this game. NRG wait for so long. Has it been too long? Because zone is closing soon and they don't have the time to loot this.
Now they do have that redeploy, but they can just go ahead and push through that train tunnel by themselves, but they needed that loot. We noted earlier on how bad their economy was, but that was the pit stop they needed. You can see now the ring pulling away up towards the respawn building here. Premier in, well, one of the premier spots for this zone. With the north side cleaned out, Neanderthals find themselves in a fight up against CLG, and CLG is another squad that finds themselves on the bubble that need to fight back for this. Now Madness coming in for Ghost, the last one alive. We'll see if he can pick up this kill points, and he is getting them on the ground onto Vatro at the very least, but will he be able to finish off Bird? It looks like Madness might just go down to the ring. He cues in as Bird just turns around on him, and so CLG, they get knocked out in 12th place, but they pick up some kill points. Xset now playing off the building here as NRG have to deal with Furia below them and a defensive bombardment. But they do have the moment, the opportunity to reset now.
NRG late rotating and still alive miraculously after all the carnage that the ring caused on its collapse. 100 Thieves on the low ground, definitely suffering the repercussions of that. Find themselves in another corner, a lot like we saw Lazarus in earlier. Speaking of Lazarus, they end up going out to a combination of G2 and Premier now. So 100 Thieves, one of the others in a no-win scenario, at least at the moment, may just be the next. But it's Furia who are eating a lot of damage as well. Zera has ended up going down, and Renegade's waiting to third party this on 100 Thieves. They got a knock.
They're pushing up now. On Moo is the only one alive. It seems on the low. No, Vayne is still there. Never mind. They get cleaned up. And so Renegades now have the low ground cleared out. They should have that phase breach coming up to try and retake height eventually. G2 still alive. With the top 6 squads remaining here, they have to deal with Premier coming in from the north as that ring continues to pull away from them. But they do have some coverage. They can slow walk this one in with the ring closing in. But after that, they're not going to have much cover once they climb over these fences. And so it's going to be down to Resulta. He needs to be patient with this bubble for his squad.
I wonder if they try and use the Ashe ultimate to play the fence line along the outside. There's a very good chance that it ends up netting them a few more placement points, because with Premier sitting up on the high ground, you could honestly play elimination. Designful joining up with the squad right now will enable that, and with 28 seconds left, there's a whole lot of chaos going on the other side. NRG are eating a lot of damage, but should be able to heal up as this ring starts closing in the next 15 seconds. They can't eat any more damage without expending that bubble or the portal at least to get them inside.
G2 have been able to walk up to that fence line that you were calling for earlier on, but they have to deal with the Renegades on the south-hand side of this one. NRG, with a sliver of this platform still alive, will be safe, and they can actually just wait out a lot of this fighting. They don't have to do anything. They just need to wait for the rest of the teams. As you can see, they're hugging that corner for as long as they can. They do set up that port to get in, as I believe Rocker was popping an ultimate Excel to get this defensive bombardment down, but they are forced back now as they don't want to give up the height. They have the portal to go back onto that fence. Sweet gets cracked, but now the nades are coming out. Nathan took that one personally and sends the players back on in. We are still in the top 5 now as G2 are trying to reset themselves, but are they just out of heals? What is going on? They're so low HP as Gentrifying will go down. Now gonna be forced to play off of this knock shield, and it looks like they are just out of resources.
They have to find some way to get to death boxes, but they're not going to make it here. Designful goes down to the rockets, and it's just Resulta left to get both his teammates back in the game, with Xset pushing around the corner. G2 meet their end, and we're down to NRG in one building, SSG jumping over to another, and Xset is a full 3-man.
It's a 3v3v1 at this point, as it looks like the final member of Space Station Gaming will get cleaned up. Xset versus NRG. It's the final team fight here. Does Clean have himself an EMP for this next fight? We'll see if he can open up a huge 150 damage across all 3 members. There's no way that drone misses an EMP onto all 3 members. We also have the defensive bombardment. So here's a huge wombo combo ready to get set out for them. So NRG have to be careful in how they push out. That bubble timing is going to be so important. We'll see who is more patient. Clean with that EMP, Rocker with that bubble on the other side. Now, as you can see, things getting tense. Xset, they've got that height. They were able to push out first. NRG need to climb up onto them as they try to make that push onto Clarify. That airburst gate comes out, and here's the full 3-man push. NRG are able to get out for free. It's a 1-for-1 exchange now, but Sweet answers back, gets it down to a 2v1, and NRG do what they do best, which is win here in game number 2.
Oh, the confidence from NRG to take that. They just walk into the building and say, we'll take the 3v3. What are you going to do? And Xset getting that single knock, it gave me a little bit of hope, but I was a fool. I was a fool to believe it, Jamerson. If NRG can weather the fire of a lobby to make it to top 2, you best believe they're walking away with those 12 points.
Yeah, with NRG firing up like this early on in the day, taking a big win here in game number 2, that slowly starts closing the door for those teams that are trying to get out of relegation, that are trying to make it into playoffs. And so we'll see NRG, how consistent can they remain? Will they be able to finish this off strong? Will they be able to snipe that first place position overall on the leaderboard? We have 4 games to find out. We're going to take a short break. When we get back, we'll have game number 3, the ALGS, right after this. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Apex Legends Global Series. Game number 2 was just won by NRG, and they are starting to fire up. Now, we noted at the beginning of the day, there was an opportunity now for them to try and steal away that first place position in the overall leaderboard. We'll see how strong they can finish off the season, but Dia, they are looking fantastic here after game number 2.
Yeah, it was a really, really clean way to play this zone again. And I say again because we saw one similar that we were talking about just at the start of the game. And now we'll get a chance to see how it all happened. From G2 being forced down to the low ground quite early on, to the fights with Legacy off here in the distance. There was so much chaos approaching this ring, especially because of the giant mountain that separates everything. But NRG were able to play both sides of it perfectly, even operating on low economy.
Yeah, that low economy was the important factor for them to be able to clean up those fights, get the extra loot, and then move in for this next zone. This is the main reason why that they were able to win this out. If they had the same kind of utility they had going in to the mid game, I don't think their chances would have been as high. But this is what we see a lot of the times. Basically the confluence of fights taking place here on the northern side, just around the chokes leading into thermal station. This was one of them. Furia pushing up onto CLG. CLG still struggling a bit, even though they took second place there in game number 1. They still have their work cut out for them if they're trying to avoid relegation.
Yeah, they've had a difficult time today knowing exactly when to get aggressive as well. We've seen it happen a few times where they're in situations where they could be pushing, and they'll choose to play things a little bit more safe, which isn't inherently bad, but specifically in their situation is costing them some chances at victories. And the same can be said for some other teams as well, but CLG definitely one that is standing out, at least at the moment. NRG, at least here, definitely did not have this problem. What a perfectly timed third party to end up shutting out the likes of Ghost, and from Bird here, at least, to shut out the likes of Ghost finally once more.
Yeah, really unfortunate. The timing on that fight, of course, we see a lot of teams fall to the trappings of that, the ring coming in just as that fight ends up basically finishing as 100 Thieves on the low getting cleaned up by Renegades. Now G2 were able to make a free rotate onto this end zone here, as they just crept up with this one for free, so they didn't have to use too much utility, but it was ultimately their economy that got punished, while NRG, of course, were able to basically restock themselves. G2 did not have that same kind of opportunity.
Oh, nice, nice, nice. Coming out to the tune of a 27-point game. Another really high score for them as they end up killing what is around a quarter of, actually exactly a quarter of the lot. No, more than a quarter of the lobby, because the 18 teams, they are just absolutely going off right now. And despite the fact that the math was strange, it just makes it all the more impressive. With Xset coming up in second, their placement was good, their kills were good, but the problem is that NRG is gonna be NRG, and that really felt like the main determiner of the 3v3 at the end.
Yeah, we didn't get to see as much of what NRG was doing throughout a lot of the mid game there, but hey, 15 kills, that's nothing to scoff at. Almost getting a 30-point game, really making up for game number 1 where they didn't get to do much at all. But now that means that a lot of these points are being taken away from squads that have a lot more on the line. Teams like Legacy, teams like Era, teams like Neanderthals and Unlucky were sitting right there on the bubble and have to wait out basically the other match that's going on, that's taking place right now, to see if they're going to be relegated or not. They can, of course, take destiny to their own hands and perform well here. But right now, things are slowing down for them just a bit. Here we go, though, heading into match number 3 of the day. As it does seem like everything has kind of settled down in terms of land spots. Everyone is established. We're not seeing any 50-50s. It's more about now how you rotate around the teams that some squads might not be used to, especially with like a team like Furia having to deal with Skyhook and the rotation out, having to deal with a squad like Furia that's going to try and gatekeep here. How do you really try and avoid a lot of that? And hey, we've got a central zone, and so they can actually just kind of rotate completely around them. We'll see if this one goes over to Harvester. There's an opportunity maybe that this one goes even to Fragment, but Harvester and Lava Siphon are the two zones that we're really looking forward to here.
There's no way we go to Harvester, right? There's no way that we get a Western zone 3 times in a row, because the thing is that despite the fact that those zones are very different and in the way that their end games are played out, their mid games are very similar. And so when we see that green ring pop up on our screens, it's going to tell us a lot about not who's going to necessarily win the game, but who's likely to make it into those top couple spots. Neanderthals will have a pretty nice easy rotate here though, and they've already got the scan on the next ring. It's directly on top of Harvester, and a little bit of Lava Siphon is around too.
You can see the pings going down for Space Station Gaming as they are making their way on in. Might actually meet up with Ghost in just a matter of moments here, who are moving out of Lava Siphon to try and take an early position. And SSG, despite their timing, this is a squad that I really kind of, I feel like they're EMEA in a way, because of their rotation times. They're so much faster than most of North America, where they're moving at around the 2-minute mark. Where a few other teams actually match that rate in terms of rotation, but this is still going to be a rough zone for them because you have to be wary moving through staging here. You never know if NRG are going to be lurking on you. You don't have the scan because, of course, you're not playing that Bloodhound, but it does seem like they're going to be able to get that free rotate. Ghost Gaming, though, taking position on the low ground just outside of Lava Siphon, and in between Harvester there. You got Xset, course, dropping in Harvester, taking this early position on the south side of Harvester for now. So it's just going to be a lot of passive gameplay coming out from our squads for the time being.
Yeah, I'm very interested in where these individual teams choose to hold up. I think Ghost have themselves a really nice sort of middling position, especially because you don't really know whether we're going to Lava Siphon or whether we're going to Harvester yet. But once that next zone gets revealed, I mean, there aren't a whole lot of inherent power spots here. One could look at Harvester and go, well, on top of the sort of edge snakes here, I'm not even going to call them snakes. How would you say this? The little walls that surround the edge of Harvester. You know what I'm saying? This bit up here, right. I know. I'm so dumb right now.
There are multiple of these fractures.
That's good. That's
fissures,
good. Yeah.
That are around, but it's surprising how strong they can actually be. But it looks like SSG don't even want to play here. They're just gonna go ahead and take off and use that Valkyrie redeploy to, it seems like, off to the eastern side. Maybe they're trying to play that connector area leading into Lava Siphon. You can see Renegades, despite starting off tree and having that priority rotate, they're going to be playing off the fence line here. Double white armors for themselves. We'll see if this 30-30 in the hands of POW can actually do some work, because they desperately need some armor.
You know, and it's another pretty darn potent place for Renegades to be, and it's sort of an ending that I'd forgotten about that goes right directly underneath the bridge here, in between Lava Siphon and fences, that we could see ourselves pulled to. Renegades set themselves up in a nice position for that, with some nice flexibility to be able to go through the likes of tree and even access the jump tower if they really needed to later on, with Space Station right on top of Harvester, however, and NRG already inside. One of the things that I was curious about last game that I sort of answered for myself throughout the course of it is why teams were sort of following the way that Sweet was doing things and letting their shields go down to 0 or dropping them entirely. And this is exactly why.
Yeah, the EMPs go out, and while it will still take damage on the ground, it will not work towards progress of an Evo shield, and so you just at least deny that from your squad. But you can see the Arc Stars out onto 100 Thieves, but we'll be able to avoid a lot of that finger rolled one on in, as they do take some damage. So it's just going to be some cells being forced out of 100 Thieves here. We'll see if they try to make a push, play inside a building. We know that Xset is just on the other side of this wall for them, controlling this corridor up and down the ramp for the time being. But ooh, we got the first knock. It's gonna be Legacy versus CLG, and I feel like that fight's been taking place quite often across the last 3 games now. Vatro's the first one to go down. We'll see if Legacy can clean things up. They are another team that are desperately looking for these early game fights. They're looking for all these points, because for a lot of these squads, they need to hit top 4 in the lobby if they want a shot. And of course, avoiding relegations and or making it into the playoffs. And there's the thirst onto CLG. We'll see if Nano and Bird can try and recover, but it looks like Bird's going to be the next one to fall. Nano is the only one up for CLG now, and CLG's chances are looking more and more grim as the games go on.
And with 100 Thieves sitting around the outside with NRG applying pressure as well, things get more and more difficult. That pesky drone up in the air definitely drawing the attention of 100 Thieves, but they can't actually involve themselves in the game, and until they move into a different spot, they're not actually going to have the ability to access any kills that might be happening, whether they be on CLG, up in the center of Harvester, or whether they be around the sides right now. 100 Thieves can't actually confidently move around anything because they're stuck on low ground, and Noble, knowing that, are just bullying them.
I'm wondering if they sent out that tether just for some information, because they don't have scans, they don't have the Bloodhound, right? But the tether can be used to try and scout out early on. If they want to try and play that low of a Harvester area, they can just phase breach over there and be relatively safe. We understand, you know, when it comes to Harvester zones, that teams don't like to really try and push that low ground because of how much of a death sentence it can be, despite how clean you take these fights. But over here at Lava Siphon, we do have Lazarus and Esports Arena about to run into each other. We'll see if Lazarus can hold down this position, as they're just trying to camp this beacon for themselves. It's actually on the edge of the second zone, and so this is a powerful spot to be able to play off of, and they are doing a good job. They've found and spotted out Esports Arena, and so they'll be able to deny this away from them.
And force ESA down to the low ground, but now coming up on the bridge, they can't actually stop the approach. Lazarus are going to have a difficult time here, end up prioritizing that beacon, and do have the ability to just straight up leave if they don't want to take this 3v3, because make no mistake, that 3v3 is coming for you if you don't opt out of it sooner rather than later. Trying to jump down to the low ground right now. This is likely a better move for Lazarus, especially with their next data. They can get themselves a little bit further on in towards that next ring.
Yeah, scan went down, and it is going to be directly on top of the eastern side of Harvester there. And so teams are expecting having that kind of open ground endgame where it just ends up on the southeast side of the main Harvester, I guess, machine. It's weird because it's a major building and a major machine all in the same place. But here's Lazarus now making their move and trying to start squaring their way. And I think a lot of this is going to be about positioning, about trying to gatekeep teams that are, like we saw Esports Arena going down on the south side, keeping that pressure onto them. Dink is able to take this high ground now, as he'll have better line of sight onto them. But the time being, they're hugging the walls, they're hugging that cliff side. You can see there it is. Better look at the ring now. So it is all of Harvester open. There's a chance actually with that ring that it might go over towards that respawn building. I'd like to take another look at it when we can, but there are so many rings that are still available. I kind of want to see Lazarus double back and regain position over that beacon, because this one is so incredibly hard to tell.
Yeah, at this point, any information is going to be useful information, because if we're not used to seeing this ring, I mean, everybody knows we cast a lot of Apex Legends, and that means that these pros are likely on a similar page going, how on earth are we going to play this at this point into the game? It's not too often that you see things like this, and it means that everybody's going to be adapting on the fly, really exposing the who's who, as CLG, who ate that little bit of scouting from 100 Thieves earlier, still alive. Nano continuing in the name, and if he survives, outlasts one more squad, he'll be securing placement points.
Yeah, there are like 5 different zones after this one that you really need to keep an eye out for. In Esports Arena, you know, they're playing that hard edge. They're just waiting. Their typical MO, of course, is to try and Valkyrie ult in round 3, round 4. They try to bide as much time as possible, but Lazarus just keeping them basically contained onto this platform for the time being. It's really unfortunate because Esports Arena wanted that beacon over at Lava Siphon, but Lazarus doing a great job denying it. They're mirroring their movement to make sure that they're not able to get it. But what Esports Arena can do is, once they see Lazarus move out, that'll give them an indication of where this ring is going to go. So Esports Arena can go ahead and play off that information as well.
Forces you into a sort of tailing situation, and one that ESA may be able to pick some kills up off of. Speaking of unlucky, trying to tail their way in towards the ring right now. No, they should be coming up on another squad on this high ground. It's G2 that are here, and, well, normally you can kind of expect that you're coming up to somebody, but when you find out that it's G2, you do get a little bit bummed out, because that makes this push so difficult.
Yeah, it looks like they're just going to go ahead and set up for the Valkyrie deploy as they take some damage taking up to the skies, but now it's about trying to find a safe landing spot. I believe Oi Senpai still has his bubble, so it should be free for them. They'll just be able to play off of the train tracks here. You can see the ring pulling away to the missile swarm as a greeting coming out from Haculo, who's you can see Furia taking up a lot of ground here, but he's going to back up as he does not want to get full pushed by a three-man. G2 playing off the choke. Now you can see why so many teams, this one is so difficult to call, but we'll see if this one continues to pull off to the western edge. G2 just wants to get involved in any fights at this point.
You just can't escape G2 right now. You try and walk up on them as unlucky. You go, oh, they're there, and then you leave, and then you find them again, and this must be feeling awful. However, with G2 playing up on this high ground, still waiting for data as much as the rest of us, they're gonna actually have what is a really nice spot and another headshot. How is Designful doing this?
He needs to swap armors. If he's going to continue to land these shots, he needs to swap armors with Resulta and Gentrifying here. He'd have the red basically for his squad already on either side of them. I mean, we know how good Designful is with that wingy. It doesn't matter the distance. He just lands these shots for now. The G2 do have this basically southwest side of the zone free for them. Furia controlling their northwest side. Now, they weren't able to get a scan for themselves. If we can, we should be joining on board with Lazarus. We're camping at Beacon the entire time. Scans down onto Legacy MX below them. We'll see if Furia want to try and get aggressive off of this one, but you can see with 16 teams still alive, with no placement points secured quite yet, no one is willing to make a move.
Yeah, Furia have a really nice position, so it makes sense that they wouldn't want to try and challenge anybody else just yet, because history would dictate that there are quite a few zones that actually end up pulling to them. I think one of the problems with this hill is that when you're forced down off of it, you haven't got a whole lot of places to go. And with 16 squads still hanging out in this lobby, things are not going to get any easier, whether you be Furia or whether you be Unlucky, who are basically right next door to them. It's teams the likes of ESA that should actually have a little bit of an easier time playing down over by this bridge. We'll have a lot of data on how other teams are rotating in and have the potential to third party.
Yeah, so it looks like they were able to at least cut off Lazarus. Lazarus were sticking around over at Lava Siphon to pick up that beacon for themselves. And we'll see if Esports Arena keep tabs on them. Skittle King's trying to go for this poke from long range. He's just narrowly missing here. How are these shots missing?
There we
go. Finally connects, but these are spot on. What is going on?
Yeah, it must be some funky bit of cover over there. Esports Arena definitely just as confused as we are, which I feel like has been the theme of this game at the very least, with a very strange zone pull. Everybody in here is just figuring it out on the fly. Space Station Gaming, one of them for right now, as they heal up the little bit of irritating damage. But Lazarus, they should know what's going on. They do have, or rather they should have that scan, but after Valk ulting up onto the height, that information may just die with them. Dropping down right outside of Harvester, Z Davis is taken down to flesh, but Lazarus are lucky to be alive.
Yeah, they'll be able to just reset. As you can see, the bad boys are playing off the tunnel here. Force still on a white armor. And, you know, this is one of those positions where you can't be proactive, where you really can't poke out. There wasn't, you know, too much presence coming out from any other squads for them to really do anything. So they're going to be seeing on those whites and blues for now. 100 Thieves have not moved very far, as they've been playing basically in Harry's room here underneath the stairs this entire time. And it looks like they never made the move. You can see the ring pulling away now all the way over towards the western side. So going towards the train tracks now, as Furia won't have too much to move off of. G2 will be in the power position for that next ring, playing off the choke as well. And so 100 Thieves, they've got their work cut out for them. You can see the heavy presence of teams inside Harvester right now. G2 in one of the best spots in the game. There's really no one there to contest them. You can see no one can really swing around from the thermal side. Their only real threat is quite possibly Unlucky taking the train tunnels to try and flank around them. But Gentrifying, he's keeping an eye on that angle this entire time, making sure they do not get caught off guard.
Bro, who predicts that ring? G2, they are so lucky right now to be able to abuse the power position they've got up on the height. They should be able to just annihilate squads as they are forced to run up the hill. Esports Arena, one of the ones on the more southern end of the map that we talked about earlier, gonna have trouble, and Ghost Gaming as well, who have to run straight into Space Station on the high ground. 100 Thieves are gonna have to come around to the bad boys right next door, already putting Ghost in a bit of a no-win situation.
Esports Arena not ready to try and go for that redeploy quite yet, as Noct needs to reconnect with his squad. He's cracked down. Won't be able to slide away from Renegades now, but this is valuable time lost for them. You can see all the squads taking the skies right now.
Oh God.
It is liftoff time, baby, and now it's going to be the coin flip. When you land, who's going to survive? This does allow Ghost Gaming now the opportunity to just walk up with this one, surprisingly enough, and so their patience might actually be rewarded here.
Somehow this is working, and hey, getting up to the height, they will have a little bit more information to continue onto the ring with, but their hike still continues. While Renegades end up using the portal for a little bit of safety, Esports Arena are left with absolutely no options. Duplex being gate-kept by Renegades, who have plenty of time, and Noct now going to go down to the ring, and a little bit of damage from the Renegades give them a total of 3 KP as they continue to move forward. Their obstacles aren't over just yet. Ghosts still lie ahead.
Yeah, Ghost, though, making a push on to the Fizz. You can see the bad boys are down there, and they are getting flanked. Renegades trying to show up to steal away some of these kills, but you can see why sometimes this position can be strong, but not in this regard. Ghost, just give up that height and allow Renegades to take all of these kills for free. And so, while they're not happy they don't get any of the kills, they're happy to survive that at the very least. Renegades, they'll get walked up on by another squad, and they're able to turn around quickly for this one. Ring pulling away now, going over towards the western side of Harvester. And so G2 are gonna have to slide down this hill. G2 Renegades eventually gonna have to collapse on top of each other. We'll see. A lot of presence here on the south side of the zone right now as Gentrifying gets a knock onto 6. You can see they're trying to already clear a path for themselves. He gets finished off by Hill. And so this makes the rotation a little bit easier now for Renegades to walk up on this one. You can see G2 playing a lot of ground here as they're trying to control as much of the western side as they can. And their main contest is really going to be coming out from Unlucky. They're just playing off to their north.
I like the way that they're using Gentrifying and Designful to move down to the low ground as well. While Resulta covers them, it gives them this artificial, not even artificial, this impact on the rest of the lobby because they're able to take free angles while controlling everybody else from the height. As Resulta comes down to join them, though, everybody is preparing for this next zone where you're gonna have to all dance together. Unfortunately, Unlucky may not be joining anybody. They do take to the skies, but are alive for how much longer?
Yeah, where can they really drop here? We still have 6 other teams alive, but SSG find themselves in a fight. This might be, it is Legacy MX on the other side. It's a 1-for-1 exchange, but Frex has been cracked. He turns the corner onto the Gibraltar, gets a second knock, and now Frex, his last stand, it's not quite enough. So we have the third party coming up from Furia, cleaning up both of them. We are now down to the top 4 squads here as Furia poke their head on out. Nice Missile Swarm getting some decent information as the knock comes out onto Premier. There should be only one left up now on the Premier side. They're about to get cleaned up. It's just Ronnie left. We'll see if he can get the res, but Furia smell blood in the water, and they smell, of course, the KP as well. They'll pick that up in just a moment as G2 finish off Unlucky. It's our final 3 squads. It's going to be a 3v3v1. Furia, G2, and one lone rat trying to survive as Zera full sends it onto G2.
He's right above them as well. It's the perfect angle. Zera, this could win or lose in the game, but with Hakulo going down, Furia's fate may be sealed. Ronnie ended up picking up the kill. Premier are still in this, and G2 are capitalizing, taking down the members of Furia one by one. Zera falls, Hakulo falls, Tak is sent right back into the ring, but does barely manage to survive. Now it's G2's lobby to win, and Tech is just there to be hunted down.
E-Rat Ronnie bringing back the name once again, staying alive for Premier. Now there's an opportunity for them to hit second place, get the extra 2 points, but also those extra kill points that he picked up on Furia throughout all of that. You can see Ronnie still has the absurdity to be able to just kind of use that passive on that Valkyrie, but G2 are right on top of them. They should be able to catch him and knock him out of the sky like a piñata. And now it's just Tech left in a 1v3. In his last stand, we'll see what he can do. But G2 on the cusp of taking a win today. Now Tech just waiting out his bubble, and we'll see. Do we have the bubble fight? It's gonna be G2 to take the win here in game number 3.
Wow, from what was a chaotic mid game into an almost certain end game, G2 do not falter. They barely lose members and ultimately are able to put out so much damage and exert so much control over that lobby that really started with a very strange ring that somehow they predicted and were able to completely abuse. The way that they left Result on that high ground, we called it out when it happened, gave them so much pressure over the lobby, and it let them get not just the win, which was almost certain by that point, but the kills to go alongside it.
As well, with G2 getting that win, NRG getting the win in game number 2, we were talking about time running out for our squads that are on the bubble, squads that are trying to make playoffs, or teams that are just looking to avoid relegation. Time is running out with our heavy hitters taking these points away from them. We still have 3 games left to go though, so no nails in the coffin quite yet. We're gonna take a short break. When we get back, we'll have the second half of today's games right after this. All right, welcome back, guys, to the Apex Legends Global Series. It's the final day of play here in the regular season. Teams are jockeying for position in the playoffs, and also teams trying to avoid relegations. Got 3 matches done. We got 3 matches left now, Dia. And are we surprised that in the last 3 games we've seen NRG take one and G2 take a game themselves?
You know what? This is more of the style of play that we were expecting. When Unlucky won in the first game, that was a big shock. But to see NRG and G2 take their games in the way that they did is still very surprising in its own way. This last day of play certainly has given us 0 disappointments so far. And with Renegades right here able to claw out some points themselves, they're putting themselves in a position where we might see a Renegades win. Get some of all of our favorites picking up at these lobbies, as we've got, make no mistake, some pretty stacked ones going down here. Lots of kills that came through that game in sort of a ring that was full of confusion, and the way in which everybody capitalized differently told us a lot. I really enjoyed that Ghost tried to play things more conservatively. Renegades, definitely aggressive, hard on the edge. Esports Arena, much the same.
Yeah, this was a lot of wait-and-see gameplay coming out from our squads, especially because of the early positioning that was taking place over at Harvester, right? And so many teams, even though they wanted to try and play hard edge, they could not because they understand the importance of gaining an early position for these Harvester zones. It's one that's really difficult to try and play hard edge off of Furia, though. This was their chance. This was their shot to try and take the win. But you can see in the back line there, Hakulo getting taken out as he was trying to play anchor for his squad. Zara and company going in early allows G2 this opportunity to come in and clean up and take this win. And Furia desperately need this win. This is another team, just like Ghost, who are on the cusp of hitting and basically securing a spot for themselves in playoffs.
Yeah, this was incredibly close for them, and to have come out of that game with, I would say, still looking for some more kills. These scores aren't accurate. G2 have more than 12 points at the end of this. They get 12 points for the win, 8 for the kill. So they have 20, and Furia should have 13. They should have a 13-point game. So really not a terrible placement for them, and for a squad that's been pretty silently still in the top 10 the entire time. I don't think this is entirely disappointing for them, because there's still a very good chance that they end up making playoffs.
Yeah, making playoffs, but also with a lot of our squads, even who are on the bubble, there's a chance to make it in the top 10. We'll see if they can do that for now. But here is the second half of the lobby. 100 Thieves, NRG. You know, some of these names we're not used to seeing here on the bottom side. NRG and Esports Arena. The big question was, with the roster change up, losing Verhulst, adding on Noct, how will Esports Arena go well in the first 3 games of the day? They had their worst performance yesterday, but now today things are looking like this might be their worst. We'll see, though. We still have 3 games to go. There could be a big shift in momentum in those 3 games. Will Esports Arena be able to find their footing, or will they slowly go out and then have to kind of reconsider what they do in the playoffs?
You know, it has so much to do with something that we talked about earlier. You remember, I believe it was in the first game that we were talking about Noct versus Verhulst, and how we were talking about how both of them bring an incredible level to the team and are comparable, but the ways in which they do so are very different. Esports Arena now look more convincing in their 3v3 fights than ever. It's what Noct is bringing to the team. But their map rotations are something that have definitely cost them over these couple games, and that's the one thing that Verhulst has sort of taken with him as their resident Valkyrie player, knowing when and where to be. And so Esports Arena still very much figuring out that game, have an incredible amount of firepower, but are not in the positions to capitalize on it.
Okay, here we go. These are the updated points, by the way. And you can see Premier GG. Those are some impressive numbers just by coming in 3rd place. So they have the 11 kill points overall with the +7, but it was Ronnie who played spoiler up against Furia. But here we go, heading into match number 4. It's the second half here, Group B versus Group D. And some teams, you know, they've got some ground to make up. Esports Arena, we'll see if they can bounce back. We'll see if Renegades can continue to be able to play as consistent as they have been. So these rings, fair to us. We'll see though if we get something off on the southern side of the map, maybe something off to the north, but it's been very centralized throughout a lot of these.
We got to keep our eyes on 100 Thieves as well, who have been very quiet over the past couple games, and not necessarily in a good way. 100 Thieves sitting at 17th right now, need to have at least one breakout game to net themselves in the top 10 or more in the overall scores so that they can secure their spot in the playoffs. Otherwise, it is very much at risk. This time, looking at the ring, it seems like we'll be playing a little bit of a different game, but we really got to get that zone 2 read because we may just go to Harvester again.
Yeah, it is indicating that more than likely this is going to be a lava siphon circle, but you know, these rings, that's why it's so important to have a recon legend, whether it's the Valkyrie, whether it's the Bloodhound, or even the Crypto. We've seen a lot of Cryptos in play, and you can see why. It is not going to be lava siphon, it's going to be a big mod or lava city ending. I mean, there's still even a chance that actually this one goes over to lava siphon playing off the bridge. So teams, they're going to want to camp those banners. So if I'm looking at Ghost, they should be able to hold up over at Lava Siphon, try to play for a Ring 3 scan. Same thing with Esports Arena. They have the Lava City scan if they want to, or they could play a bit more aggressively and play off a big mod. We'll find out in just a moment. 100 Thieves, though, is going to be the big question mark here. They have the ring information. How do they want to play this zone?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting question to be answered about 100 Thieves, because it's going to tell us a lot about what their most comfortable play style is. A lot of the times over the past couple of rings, they've been forced into playing a little bit more around the edges of the ring in a sort of way that they can flexibly jump from position to position based on where it pulls. But now, with the information that they have from the beacon, they know where the zone is pulling, and they're already so close to it that they should be able to get a prized spot or opt into hard edge. Whichever one they want to try and pull off is going to tell us so much about how comfortable they are in what sorts of play styles. Well, Ghost Gaming, on the other hand, definitely a squad that has been a little bit more comfortable playing around the edge, also has that extra bit of information, and have opted into playing Lava Siphon of all things, perhaps expecting that, a lot like in our normal games, that fighting will happen there.
Yeah, and here is one of those such fights, as bubbles have been used from either side. Neanderthals facing off against Noble on the other side of this one, but it seems things have died down just a bit. There's still a lot of utility in play. Doors to be griefed, missile swarms to be shot out, and oh boy, it looks like Strictly lost out on that exchange, and gotta be careful going for that peek with the arc star out, but scan is there from the other side. We'll see if Borden with that Crypto can get him some decent information, but the drone might have already been cleared and might have to wait out on the drone to come back up. He's got it available. He's even got the EMP. He's at 216 damage, so very close to getting himself a purple Evo shield for himself, and I don't want to see him just spam out these EMPs right now.
Yeah, they're incredibly valuable to be able to get you and your team a little bit further on, and so with the, I guess, sort of recent pickup of Crypto, everybody's still debating when it is best to save that for, and we haven't seen any big game-changing EMPs at the very end, which is something else that we have to look forward to. But the thing that we're already getting, the treat that I love, is the stack up of teams inside of Lava City. We've already got 3 of them in here, with 100 Thieves on the low ground, and ESA on the high, with Xset joining us. We are really going to be putting on a big celebration here, and when the zone, if the zone moves away from Lava City, things are going to get really exciting very quickly.
Everyone expecting this one to be a hard lava siphon, or excuse me, Lava City pull here. NRG with the rotate across. Gotta be careful. There's a team right below them. We know that Esports Arena is on the roof, and there's very little spot for them to take up. They're just going to take the first floor of this building. Surprisingly enough, took almost no damage there. Almost got caught off by that cost. The trap does get cleared, and so NRG will have the lobby of this building to play off of now. Now, the big difficulty, though, is trying to find opportunities with these white Evo shields to try and poke, but you can see the sightline's not the greatest to get involved and try and poke away at squads, try and get that. But we do have a port coming out from Sweet. What is he going for? Is he actually just trying to move them up onto the train station? Here's Esports Arena maintaining supremacy over the rooftops here, because it is going to be a battle for this beacon over and over again.
You know what? I wouldn't mind any high ground that you can get if you can get yourself in a position, not like Esports Arena because they've got definitely the best one, but sort of similar to, at least the level of poke for teams that are coming into Lava City as well. You access KP, and that's what Energy's rotation is all about right now, to get themselves in a better spot, not just to win the game ultimately, but to be able to pick up the most points while doing it. Even if you do get second or sometimes third, making it all the way into those final rings with no kills is definitely not the kind of thing that they're going for. Noble, however, playing this one around the edge over by Lava Siphon, are one of our few squads that haven't opted to go into Lava City, and they also will have the access to the next ring scan for a little bit more information over at the center of Lava Siphon, despite the fact that their game is being played, I'll say, a little more slowly.
Yeah, they've got the Bloodhound, so they can take their time, and they don't have the same opportunities, right? They saw everyone just literally fly past them, and so they'll just have to hoof this one in. But you can see that positioning for that beacon. It doesn't seem like there's any kind of contest. We knew that Ghost kind of doubled back there, and now it looks like it actually might be free. You do have to be worried about Legacy MX that are playing inside the tunnel, and they haven't gotten a scan onto them quite yet. Don't know if they have visual confirmation, but Legacy is starting to make their move on out. It does seem like the beacon building is free. The Impulse is the one that's keeping an eye on their back for the time being. But eventually there is going to be a big fight over that beacon. It's just a matter of time. You can see it's still round number 1. These games have been incredibly slow, despite it telling you that, you know, we have 18 teams in the lobby. We started off with 18 teams, 2 notable absences at the beginning of the day.
Yeah, and that's definitely put us in a position where we talked about it quite early on, from the drops and everything ever since then, from game 1 really, where we were all figuring it out, in a slower pace of game, which is ultimately, I think, what lets Noble make a move like this. Normally landing in Geyser, it would be kind of strange to be able to poke your head out and move all the way over towards Lava Siphon when you'd have teams funneling in from there. But because partially of the Valkyrie squads that are flying quite literally just all the way over you, and because there are less people running at you, they're able to make their way into a sort of edge play style on the ring, and I will say hopefully get that beacon scan. We saw a similar situation from Lazarus last time where they weren't able to double back on the beacon, but this time information really does have to be king for Noble, unless they already think they know where the zone is going, but surely not.
Now, one thing I want to see out of Noble here, they have to understand with how a lot of our teams have been playing, there's not as many teams coming into Hard Edge, and oh my goodness, what is this ring pull? We have maybe 10 teams stuck over at Lava City right now, and this ring pull, it's pulling away. It's more heavily favoring Lava Siphon. If anything, it should be ending in that open ground between Lava Siphon and that vault tunnel. Bridge is still in play, by the way, and CLG will have one of the priorities coming out from Lava City. Wow. Our rings have been pulling all of our teams for a loop all day long.
This is the biggest bamboozling I've seen in Apex. And there's
it's just out of there.
Like so many teams. I mean, that says so much. When everybody else sees ESA take off with the Valkyrie ult, they go, what on earth is happening? Everybody wants that beacon, so hopefully we'll get some more scans going off soon. 100 Thieves still going to be in a relatively comfortable position. There is real estate on this side of the map as sort of consolation prizing, but realistically, this zone going to be very, very exciting to watch play out, not just because of the rotations now, but because a lot of it includes that open space just off of the south end of Lava Siphon that can get very chaotic. Yes, there are a lot of rocks to play around, but the cover itself doesn't provide a whole lot of staying power when you're being pushed.
Now, what I'm wondering is that beacon contested? Can Esports Arena play for it? I'm surprised that they ended up landing there, and you can see now the next team making their way on over. Remember, XZ flew in to Lava City, and then thank goodness they do have a round-trip ticket to get out as well, as they're going to skirt around to the south-hand side here, and I like this. They can actually play pretty passively off of this. I don't know if there is a beacon in Dome for them to play off of as well, but they can try to gatekeep the teams that have to walk through here, and there is a beacon for them to try and pick up. they should be within range of both the Lava City one and the Dome one if they want to just play passively here on the south side.
Yeah, they can play their cards right and definitely get themselves a lot of that information. A team like Furia, however, is operating at a bit of an information deficit, now at a health disadvantage as well. They do, of course, like to play in the zone quite a bit, and Furia will be trying to make their way in slowly, but the way in which they do so is going to leave them exposed to a lot of other teams that already have their spot, and it's the inherent risk of Furia. It's why we see such swingy performances from them at times.
Yeah, for NRG though, they're one of the teams that banked on this one going over towards Lava City, and it's so difficult when you try to make that early rotate, you sacrifice your armors, you sacrifice your loot in doing so, and then you are not rewarded for it. Now there's an opportunity, maybe they can swing over towards the replicators to make up for basically their early rotate, but it does seem like teams are still waiting things out. They're waiting for this next ring to close before they know that they have to get out of here. NRG are not the wiser themselves. But like you said, Dia, if you look at what Esports Arena did and kept an eye on them, note that they're able to move out, you should have a rough idea of what's going on here. And so maybe NRG are just waiting to be the last ones to move. You can see Lazarus are over at Mod. We have Ghost creeping up, about to take the beacon themselves, and I'm so surprised. I wanted to see Ghost sticking around Lava Siphon, but they got thrown for a loop as well. Rotating over here to Lava City. They got SSG below them. Oh, they're gonna hit the scan and realize, well, they get the scan. Or Nardi realize that the ring is pulling away, and it is going over towards that open ground just to the east of Lava Siphon. So they're gonna have to make that trek back.
Yeah, even further off into the distance, and in a way this provides us with a really nice exciting game state, because not only are a lot of teams adapting on the fly, but we've already got a pretty nice matchup developing over here in the south with Renegades going up against G2. They are right next door to each other and receiving more teams by the minute. Could give us a lot of interesting third parties to be going on, with 100 Thieves taking the low ground right now. They put themselves in one of the worst positions to get KP, one of the best positions to get bullied, but still should have a little bit of cover provided to them by the team that inhabits right next door. Renegades from above on this high ground can dissuade a lot of poke from coming down onto 100 Thieves, so as long as you've got the meds, you can survive.
You can see G2, I believe, flying past them now, as they found themselves in a little bit of trouble and end up avoiding a lot of that. But it does seem like Gentrifying and Designful need to take some time to heal up here. Stuck on the low. Noctis pushing up, and oh boy, G2 about to get knocked out here. Noct finds that first one, and it almost finishes him off, but the defensive bombardment will force him back. Esports Arena have done enough, though, securing out a lot of this low, and we'll see if they can actually finish off our winners from game number 3. There's the res. Gentrifying is able to heal up, and they've got that phase breach to try and get out, but still they're taking a lot of this damage, and there it is. Noct goes for a second pass. That's going to be Designful, resulted in all of them going down. G2 out. Our first team out, surprisingly enough, after winning in game number 3.
Yeah, really crazy stuff, and I think precedented by the fact that this ring was so difficult for them to play. They get a similar situation to last time where they're gifted the high ground, but this time with a little bit of contest, Renegades just put up a little bit too much of a fight, and Esports Arena are ready to accept them. As Bad Boys, now one of the last teams remaining in Lava City, encounter a bit of resistance themselves. Can they face up in a 3v3? History is a difficult one for Bad Boys, is they haven't really been able to match up against a lot of our more well-known squads, but the Bad Boys still have the chance to be able to wrestle their own fate into their hands over by Lava City.
SSG versus Furia taking place right now as Legacy MX have sightlines on that fight currently. They've even got the zone, and oh my goodness, take a look at that, by the way. I called at the beginning of this game, hey, you know, maybe stick around this beacon, see what happens, and teams are getting gifted for it. And you could be able to get one more scan. Furia do recover on the low SSG. They're not going to take any trades here, and they'll be able to reset. But throughout all of this, it looks like Lazarus might be getting finished off as they make their rotation out of Big Mod. They are going down. Unlucky, find the knock themselves onto Impulse from Noble. as they're trying to recover here. It looks like he is still on height, and the charge rifle shots are connecting. He's just a few ticks away. They're able to close the door and get him back up, and so Impulse will stay alive for now for Team Impulse. Excuse me, for Team Noble. You can see with a minute left to go, and they have plenty of time to reset here. Rakanishu showing presence outside as well. Is forced now, turning the tables onto NRG, another one of those squads that were trying to late rotate out of Lava City, and they're getting punished for it. They take to the skies, but now they're not going to have a bubble on landing. They're getting shot by about 4 squads. It looks like Nathan gets taken out by Promos. That's the long bow connecting, and so Rocker and Sweet are sent to the ground, and NRG need to just try and survive. Here comes a missile swarm. We'll see if Sweet gets it off, and no! He goes down. Rocker, he doesn't get the bat off. It's all up to Rocker now. Remember, the bubble isn't up for about another 10 seconds. The tether is used. No, wait, no, he just gets it up. Did he have a gold? Oh, wait, he doesn't. Okay, never mind. Rocker keeps Sweet alive throughout all of this, but NRG, we'll see if they can try and maybe plug Nathan back in.
I mean, yeah, it is right next door. It's risky, but I'd kind of like to see NRG try it, because at this point, you need everything. You need the Hail Marys, but with 9 seconds left on the ring, you don't have time anymore. And their best bet is to get underneath that bridge, try and play in a little bit of a more unorthodox spot to move themselves forward. They are running out of time and running out of safe places to be, much like a lot of these squads, Bad Boys included, landing right now near Lava Siphon and meeting with a lot of bullets directly to the face. They're gonna end up going out.
Yeah, teams, like we said, that need to show up today, that have been having some decent performances. Unlucky, Era. These are teams that are on the bubble now that need to get the +9, the +12s for the day. They want a shot at staying alive. They want a shot at making it into the playoffs. 100 Thieves. They're on the south side, just trying to have a decent performance. Their shot of they have a decent opportunity to try and make it into the top 10, but it's more about maintaining their position in the playoffs here, as they do get a knock. But now it's gonna be Premier going down. 100 Thieves picking up a few of those kills here, as Ghosts try to move in as well. The bubble has been forced out. The defensive bombardment used as Madness goes back to his squad. We'll see if Renegades can knock out Ghost once more, as Panders takes to the sky with that Geyser redeploy, falling back just a bit. But Madness is dropped down low. He'll go down. Renegades picks up 2. Just like that, Ghosts are just down to 6 remaining here. Force tried to get involved throughout that as well, but back up on the high ground, it's a mad scramble. As you can see, Blitzen, Born and company are trying to hold out that zone, pulling towards the western side of this ring here. X set, they've got an EMP themselves if they want to set that one out, but they're just taking the moment to reset inside the rocks here, and it looks like they will have that opportunity.
Miraculously as well, with so much death around them, Xset are lucky to be alive. Now that they've got the chance to reset off these boxes as well, they'll be able to push this momentum forward with them up onto the high ground, where that RV is putting out so much value. The team inside of this truck is so ridiculously lucky right now, because they're one of the only teams that is going to have guaranteed cover moving into the end game. Even teams the like of Legacy MX are going to be exposing themselves to the low ground with no other options. 100 Thieves waiting on the side for them to poke their heads out as well. Time is limited for everybody here, as Zone 5 just now is closing.
This is insane. Legacy MX, remember, they made that swap off from Dome to drop over at Skyhook, so they had to play hard edge on this one. We saw them coming in to Lava Siphon fairly late, and they were able to creep in with the zone, and now they are gifted the final end zone. Team lands on top of them. Joe Max is trying to find the heady angle, but he's having a little difficulty there. Pro gets shot down and almost cracked, and they need to reset. There you go, Pro. He realized that he did not have any shields left, but it does seem like that team up top, defensive bombardment going down, will get finished off. Combination of SSG and a Legacy MX. 100 Thieves still alive, having a decent spot. There's the knock onto 6, and there should be, I guess they got Madness back into this game. We'll see how much longer they can survive for. Here's the push on out from 100 Thieves onto the tractor now. Bane connecting with some juicy shots off that PK, but oh boy, there's still some fight left on the other side of this one until Scurry finishes them off, and that's gonna be unlucky. going down. We've hit the top 6 remaining here. Defensive bombardment down on top of Vaxlon as he tries to make his retreat, and it's Legacy's last stand. You can see that final zone, the slow zone, will be closing into the center of the circle here, and so Legacy MX will eventually be forced out of cover. They'll have to deal with, I believe, SSG below them.
Right now popping out, getting access to a lot of the meds, a lot of the extra loot here. They should know that I believe Furia is below them right now, and Jomax is on the Valkyrie, so has quite a bit of safety, but definitely scared me there. SSG actually on the low ground for now. Furia off to the side. Renegades still in this as well. 6 teams remain, but almost all of them are in pieces right now. Legacy on this bridge, I've got to imagine that they're one of the favorites to take this game, perhaps moving themselves a little bit further on and trying desperately to avoid relegation and get themselves a playoff spot.
Ooh.
They lose one though, and as this ring starts to close, things are going to get dicey.
Now, luckily for them, they should have time. They should have time for another bubble to come up before they make their last push on out. Or SSG ends up pushing out first. Jaguar is going for that port. We'll see as he tries to take height with it, but you still have to worry about every other team behind you for now. I feel like they could have waited a little bit longer on that port. As you can see, that bubble being used by the team to their east now as they push forward. All the action concentrated on top of this trailer, and Legacy MX can take the time, just wait things out. Jaguares, though, gets peeked on. That's going to be 100 Thieves going up, taking one out as the final 5 squads remaining. Furia in shambles as well as 100 Thieves need to take the time to reset for themselves. They've got the bubble down as Legacy MX are picking up so many points here. They're offered the free reset as well as the 4 squads remaining. It should be a 3v1. Who's that last full squad? Is still up now as a defensive bombardment. It's just going to get eaten by them. As you can see, they survived that for now. Legacy MX with that high ground. The bubble has been used as well, and you can see they're just bleeding out on the ground. The knock shields are there. Shields up, man, as SSG are getting cleaned up.
And that was our last 3-man. Now it is just time for Legacy to continue contesting 100 Thieves. It's a 3-squad game, and as Legacy jump down with a big thermite to buy them time, Jaguares goes into the void, burning people down. Now having the knockdown shields to play, he can do this for his team. Legacy are so close to clutching this one out, but they can't quite do it. And 100 Thieves rip this game away from them.
Ooh, oh man, that was so close. Legacy MX almost taking the win there, but it will be 100 Thieves. And again, these are important matches. These are so important, especially for a squad like Legacy MX. There's 2 outcomes for them today. If they don't perform well, they could get relegated, and if they do perform well, they can make playoffs. Try to just play for, being in limbo and just surviving and securing a spot into split 2, I don't think is enough for them, and they're showing that they have the grit. There's been a turnaround for them for the last few matches so far. Legacy MX is definitely starting to show up now. Can they finish off strong? A second place finish there is going to be very important for them moving on to the final 2 games of the day, Dia.
Yeah, they have really stepped up to the level of competition of this lobby. With 100 Thieves having a big breakout game, this might have been the thing to send them to playoffs, but it depends on how many points they accrued. And to know the answer to that, we've got to take a short break before we pop into your 5th game of the day in just a few minutes.
Welcome back, guys, to the Apex Legends Global Series here for Group B and D matches. As after 4 games, 100 Thieves finally strike, taking the win in that last game, really fighting and clawing for their position in playoffs. We understand, Dia, there's a lot on the line. There are a lot of teams trying to steal away, snipe away these last final spots in playoffs, and Legacy MX is definitely one of those squads keeping an eye on 100 Thieves.
Oh my god, right? It's just at the end there, that straight up raw battle between the squads left Space Station Gaming, one of our most consistent teams, is almost an afterthought. And the fact is that that matchup was preceded by a lot of tension, a lot of confusion, and a lot of adaptation. You're seeing on your screen right now, we went from Lava City to Lava Siphon and all the way back down into the center as well. With Esports Arena going out somewhere in the center there, they still managed to pick up kills and managed to, fortunately enough, outlast NRG, who met their untimely fates over by Dome.
Yeah, this game was just marred by questionable zones, right? And actually the last few games have been. When some of the best shot callers, some of the best macro callers are calling this for Lava Siphon for it to pull this heavily, or excuse me, Lava City for this to heavily pull over to Lava Siphon, really does characterize what is going on and how difficult these rings have been to read. But some of the teams that were able to take advantage of playing a hard edge, teams like Legacy, Team 100 Thieves here, really taking advantage of this. And also another noticeable, notable top 10 finish is going to be Unlucky, who just got finished off by 100 Thieves here. They still have a shot of winning out in the day with the victory that they took in the first game of the day.
Now, one of the things that, of course, deserves some celebration, 100 Thieves with that win, set themselves to only their second of the season so far, which is a really big deal for them. Same thing happened with Unlucky earlier today, and honestly, to be able to get not 1 but 2 wins in the Pro League definitely inspires confidence as they'll continue, hopefully, moving forward, especially for 100 Thieves into those playoffs where really 1 win can change everything for you. Now that we're moving, however, into our 5th and even 6th games of the day, standings matter so much, and the points that you can accrue matter so much that 13 kills in a game is definitely the kind of performance that you want and they need for first place.
And look at all these team names: Legacy MX, Renegades, Furia, Unlucky, and Ghost. All these teams that are on the bubble for different reasons. Teams that are trying to secure a spot in playoffs, teams that are trying to secure a way out of relegations as well. They are showing up right now. And so these are very important storylines that we're trying to follow, but we have to remember that we had 3 other games. Taking a look at the bottom half of this, though, Neanderthals have been slowing down quite a bit, but they do pick up some points themselves. Bad Boys, another team that needs to show up, that have 2 more games left to go to try and turn things around.
And with teams like Era Eternity joining them, you can only imagine the pressure is on. For teams like Furia and Ghost, however, and especially Furia, they're the ones that have been making the most of the situation with very few points between them and playoffs. One of them, at least, should be making it through. It would take a Herculean performance from Era Bad Boys to make it through. Even the Neanderthals right now, with the 3 kills, 4 points that they managed to get just last game, it needs to be replicated, duplicated, triplicated for them to make it in. And these last 2 games are more than anything, like we've talked about so often, more stick than they are carrot.
Yeah. I mean, it is the final day of the regular split, though. And so sometimes we'll see teams be able to turn things around. We're waiting on game number 5 right now. And, one narrative that we haven't really talked about as much is that there is still prizing right throughout the regular season as well. And with Esports Arena having, like we said, their quote-unquote worst performance the other day, where they only picked up 2 points, where we haven't seen them pick up less than 7 in a day, this left open a huge opportunity for multiple other squads like NRG, like G2, even Space Station Gaming to try and snipe away this top position. Especially now, Esports Arena, they aren't doing as well in this lobby. But here we go, 2 games left to go. We're heading into match number 5 of the day, and dropping into World's Edge now. It's that same split coming out, and you can see now that this one does punish the South teams a bit. That flight path was a little bit north, so teams that typically do want to, of course, take their time rotating will basically be left in that same position. So it's going to be a lot of hard edge unless you've got a pull like this. I did see it. It is going to be another southern zone. Again, this time around, though, all eyes, I believe, should be on launch site.
Man, oh man, to see the zone pull this way, it's got to be another 100 Thieves game. Like you talked about, launch site is prime real estate, and they got to own that from so early on last game. Once again, they've got prime positioning to do whatever they would like inside this ring. It was kind of funny though, we were talking about southern teams and that it would punish them. I was thinking, oh man, it's gonna punish Skittlecakes, the one team that lands Dome, because he's literally alone inside of Dome. ESA have so many POIs to work with that they can assign one person per POI. How crazy is that?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just PvP is watching this. Like, how does this keep happening? How do they keep getting this? But you know, Legacy MX just really favored their chances of playing off of Skyhook itself. Yeah. So I understand them moving away from Dome. Just having Dome to play off of, the loot there isn't the greatest. You don't have that rotate through Lava Siphon or through Launch Site to pick up additional ones, and the caliber of players that are around you as well are just so terrifying. So I like that they made that shift on up. Space Station Gaming, though, a little bit slower on their rotate here. Again, this is always troublesome for them because they do have to basically rotate through the path of NRG, often coming through staging when they come from Lava Fissure itself. But the southern zone, we'll see if they try to get into launch site. You can see NRG, this is what I'm talking about, the lyric play. NRG are waiting for the 3-2-1.
Oh my god, just they could have taken out drop there, but now they drop onto the low ground. I think Space Station know that they're there and should be able to dish into staging. NRG don't quite get the kills, but they do get the crack if they want to follow this up.
Okay, finally plays out the way that I call it. I'm always waiting for that lyric play coming out from NRG. They're feeling a little stinky and they want to pick up some points here. But now Premier showing up as well, using that redeploy out of Hot Springs. Space Station getting chased down now. See how sticky are NRG for these points, but you can see Space Station Gaming have been able to reset, and they're going to try and avoid this even more. But they need to retake height here. They don't have that redeploy yet, and Nathan gets the knock onto dropped, and oh boy, Space Station Gaming on the verge of getting knocked out first here.
The worst legend to lose initially, but with one knockback, perhaps Space Station can survive. Never mind, NRG end up taking them out. Premier's still in the area though, doesn't leave NRG out of the woods yet, especially with Sweet so low. Ends up getting that Phoenix kit off, and somehow, some way, with absolutely zero contest, NRG clean wipe our first squad out before Zone 1 even starts closing.
NRG, they went out in the last game, I believe, with what, 1 point or even 0 points. So they do have to make up for that game. They did get that win, of course, in game number 2. So they're still in the running to try and take first place today, especially with 2 games left to go. But down at launch site, all of our teams have made their moves. Ghost Gaming coming over from Lava Siphon wasn't too much of a rotation for them. They'll be controlling the northern side. We'll see if they try to make a play maybe for the south. You can see there's a beacon out in the middle of no man's land there. That one's a little bit wonky, a little bit scary to go after. Madness is just trying to get a good feel for the land. This is how he likes to play that Wraith. He is one of those limit testing Wraiths that we see so frequently, you know, in the likes of Hal and such. But here's Team Era now, all the way over at Fragment, finding themselves in a small skirmish here. Backed off with that phase breach to make it over to the market. I wonder who's trying to contest them.
Yeah, I imagine, I was going to say that we might have bad boys over here. CLG and Neanderthals also in a fight. Era definitely taking the protracted rotation, though, are going to go a little bit further around, perhaps entering through the choke point between Lava Siphon and Geyser, while CLG end up taking a few more kills out, finishing off the likes of the Neanderthals and making sure that they have dominance over this end of launch site, firing down from above as well. They've still got a res bird, but he can't be picked up with so much pressure being applied to them by Premier.
Yeah, Premier have to reset themselves, though. Bird is still bleeding out, and Nano backs off as we do have Ghost showing up for that third party. And that was the other worry when you have Ghost so close. Madness, like I said, likes to play that limit testing Wraith, likes to go out and try to pick up points for his squad throughout the mid game. And That's what he's doing so well for now. CLG have an opportunity, though, with the crypto to pick up that banner and just plug him in. They can go ahead and just hard edge this one, go back up towards Lava Siphon, hell, and even go over towards like Landslide if they want to go for that res. And so we'll see. You can see Vatro is in that drone right now. He'll be able to pick up the banner and then plug him right back in.
Should be able to. A little bit of attention, though, attracted from over by Lava Siphon. While over in Launch Site, Noble are still battling this one out. We saw them show up in the kill feed a little bit earlier and up against Renegades and ulting Renegades, no less. They're at least going to be able to force Saucer and the like back in undercover. Renegades get out alive and deal some nice damage back, but really, you can see, especially with that white shield, they want to bide their time, farm up, and wait until later on in the game, because if you're burning all of your meds now, you're not going to have the chance to outlast inside of a zone that's going to get really, really tight, really close to home.
Yeah, everyone's expecting this one to be a very hard south pull. You can see the pings going down for Renegades themselves. They can try and play off basically this spot that Noble's in right now. A lot of teams are going to try and look for this a bit later on. It seems a little early for Noble to be here. Might be contending up against the Caustic squad maybe that are inside right now. That's the trouble you run into when you try and hold this spot. And a lot of times the Caustic squads can't get there. But Noble, they will be able to survive. We'll see, though, as we have a lot of early movement. A lot of Valkyries like to ult here. And so when the next zone closes, we'll see if any teams try to drop in. You can see there is still a fight taking place on the edge over at Fragment. And we saw, I believe, what was it, Team Era. That was stuck down there. So if we could check in with that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking up at my map, squinting like an old man to try and figure out what teams it is. Of course, Era still around, but pushing who, I wonder? At this point in the game, being left so far outside of the ring, it is just a 3v3, no chance of anybody else coming in. And with Ares taking a nice bit of damage and that Arc Star right behind him, he's in trouble. He gets knocked, and it's NRG that take him out. Why they are so far north, nobody knows, but now that they're here, Era have met their end.
Ooh, boy, Stunny's the only one left alive, and now Era, their chances of avoiding relegation now are so low. They have one last game to put up points. NRG is cleaning them up. Esports Arena, though, still playing off of Lava City here, as they got a CLG banner. It's going to be Nano that ultimately went down. They don't have a beacon, so I'm surprised that they're still sticking around here. But they can just walk in this one. You can see there's the port coming out from that vault tunnel. And so it's going to be G2 now making the rotation from the western side. They have been sticking with this Valkyrie and Ash composition, but you can see they were eyeing that south side that Noble are playing off. They're going to avoid that now. They can play off the ledge, basically almost off the map here, but it's a little bit short, so they have to turn in, and it's bad signs. They lose out on one. Rakishi drops down instantly as Resulta was taken out of the skies. That's going to be a 2-for-0 exchange for Team Noble, as Vayne with the longbow will be able to take him out. We'll see if the fast res is there. They've got the port, though, to get him back around the corner, and so Team Noble will knock out G2.
This could get interesting here as Noble do manage to buy a little bit more space. Xset flying over top. Go, what on earth happened here? G2 making a very disrespectful play there. Honestly, pay for it with their lives, and nothing really more that can be said about it. They, from a position in Thermal Station, did have a faster rotation should they want it. An easier one, I'll say, since Noble had come over all the way from Geyser, but it's so late now that trying to make that move, rightly so, takes them out of this fifth game, the penultimate game of the day. With Furia maybe trying to mirror them, we could get that mistake made twice.
This is a little bit better, though, the flight path for Furia. They'll be able to basically, you can see the pings going down onto that edge. They have a lot of rock to play off of here. Other squads have gotten the memo as well, but you just kind of tuck yourself into this corner, and the only worry is going to be nades. But a lot of times teams aren't going to want to expend that utility to try and force you out of this spot. We'll see how long Noble can survive for outside. You can see 100 Thieves are just waiting for Scurry. Unfortunately, DCing with 20 HP Oh boy, hopefully he can get back into it. Luckily, no one's pushed them quite yet, just because of the absolute presence of Valkyries in the sky, flying past. Noble, they don't want to give up their position. They need to maintain their presence, or they'll get dropped on. It was that vigilance that allowed them to take out G2, and it's that same vigilance that's actually allowing 100 Thieves to stay alive inside this building.
And this is really good for them, and even though they've lost their Gibraltar, they can keep up this bluff. He's still there to any Bloodhound that would scan, and realistically, that's all that they need. The threat of the Caustic and the Gibraltar combination, their holding power, is the thing that is keeping this team nice and comfortable inside of launch site. But we've been inside of launch site for so long that I've almost forgotten what the outside feels like, and Bad Boys, they're the ones going around walking out in this dangerous land. Yes, they aren't in the future rings, but for a team that has been playing Edge so far, they've got a really nice position and a nice bit of flexibility as well, as much as they're eating several bits of damage.
Yeah, had to decide between the Ultimate Excel and healing up, but they'll have time as we do have the World Crate dropping down. They're contested for it, and I don't think they'll be able to pick that one up, unfortunately for them. They don't have an Ashe, they don't have a Wraith with a port. If they do go for it, it will have to be promo to try and drop down onto the low, but looks like they're probably just gonna have to give it up for other squads. Legacy MX with that hard rotate coming out all the way from Skyhook, of course, find themselves once again playing on the edge for this one, but because of that, last time around they were able to capitalize off of it. You can see no squad have been able to take that world drop quite yet. NRG are trying to play over at Lava Siphon themselves. They have to deal with Lazarus.
I like the ping from Bad Boys, though. One of the things that they've noticed that very few other teams do is that because they have the Valkyrie, they can play on the outside wall around launch site. They don't actually need to go in yet. They can go get that loot crate that's hit the ground recently at their leisure. Once ring starts closing, a minute 30 from now, and as long as they can keep other teams from approaching it, because of the Valkyrie, they have that ability to sit there while nobody else can. They ping this little corner right there, and it would let them continue to play the game. We'll see if they end up going for it, as right now, it's just patience that would keep them there.
Lazarus, get that ring information for us. It's going to continue to go straight south over towards Mini Dome, and oh no! Davis was caught out by himself. Sweet picking that up. NRG, hard playing the edge, are coming up with so many kills. They have their eyes square on that first place position, and they might just be able to do it with this game. This could easily be a 30-point game for them if they take the win, continuing to chase down the rest of Lazarus there. Sweet is on the hunt. They are picking up every single kill point.
Absolutely no way that you can escape. Now the flatline comes out. Sweet is already on your tail and is going to take you out. Last bit of damage gets pumped in, and Lazarus end up going down. With NRG now cleaning out 3 squads, they've already got 9 kills and can continue to accrue so many more. 3 squads is, hold on, 16. They've missed out on 3 other squads that are in this game. Half of all people that have died so far have been killed by NRG. How insane is that?
Yeah, that's SSG, that was Era, and then Lazarus ultimately going it down to them. See, NRG really want to finish off strong. They've been one of the most consistent squads outside of week number 1. Now, with the stumble coming out from Esports Arena in the last match, it allows them the opportunity to try and snipe that first place position away. They still have to worry about G2. We're looking to try and crack into the top 3, but time's running out for G2 as well. Legacy MX now making their way on into the north side of launch site here. They are met with a little bit of resistance as the nades are coming out, but they should be roughly safe. We'll see. Jaguars does have that port. If he wants to maybe try and go for a kidnap play, or would he rather use that once they realize that this ring will continue to pull down to the south?
I feel like these should be handshake grenades, you know? Neither of these teams really want to take this fight. They just want to be left in peace. Nobody wants to take the cold 3v3, so unless cracks come through, Legacy MX should be just fine for now. It would be up to a third-party situation to really instigate the action between these two guys, and Ghost Gaming, they very well could provide that. Rotating over, they could give Legacy MX the entrance that they have been needing if you just get a single knock inside this building.
Now, how's Ghost Gaming going to deal with this? Madness should have that port available for his squad. 100 Thieves knocking out Team Noble. Have all of that major south building to themselves, but you're gonna have, of course, Renegades to deal with as well. NRG, once again, just the janitors of this lobby, finding another squad. Crucial damage being put out by Sweet as he forces out that missile storm. He's gonna have to be careful himself, finally getting cracked, but man, they are looking for more and more points here. Nathan on anchor duty, watching that back. As you can see, they're trying to chase down the rest of Esports Arena. Exit were able to get a knock, and it looks like they will not be able to get the res on the Esports Arena side. NRG want to finish them off. That was the other kind of the barricade that they had, making it into the top, as you have Knocked going for the skies, but
Oh
Nathan
my god!
picks that one up. NRG cannot be stopped.
Before they even hit the ground, ESA are out, and NRG are the ones to have taken them down. Now with Xset in front of them over by Baby Tome, but 100 Thieves keeping them honest up on the high ground. What will their next move be? Who will their next prey be? As NRG already just absolutely upsetting this entire lobby with the aggression that they've had. Game 1, they went out pretty darn early on, playing conservatively, not really doing too much, but this is a return to their week 1 form of just saying, I don't care who you are, we're gonna 3v3 you, and God knows we'll win.
Yeah, they have all the north side cleared out. They know for sure that it's cleared out because they killed everyone along the way. And you can see now the rotates coming out from Premier along with Unlucky into the sight lines of everybody. Ghost, you finish off Impulse. He was the last rat left in the lobby for the time being. And so now all the action basically around this tower here. Legacy MX trying their best to avoid these arc stars, but more keep coming in. That's going to force out the bubble. At the very least, you can see Ghost playing on the low. Madness 6 and company need to reset here. Renegades just off to their west as well. Arcstars nades coming in with the timing and defensive bombardment. Legacy MX sliding on them as well. And Jaguares will get the knock onto Madness. Actually, that's Pro picking him up, but they did not realize they went right into a defensive bombardment. They're about to lose out on Joe Max. We'll see how hard Renegades stick onto this. Luckily for Legacy, 100 Thieves come swinging out, getting involved, stopping Renegades from that push, but that does not stop them from losing out on Joe Max. Pro needs to take some time to reset here. He's got the Mastiff finally getting the knock. There's another bubble for him, but he will ultimately go down. Saucer picks those up. Now Renegades left in shambles. Saucer the only one up as 100 Thieves make their push out to clear them out, I believe. No, that's going to be Prodigy Aces and Unlucky looking for another win today. Oh boy, another squad showing up. That should be, yeah, NRG. They said, no. These are our kills. How dare you? And they took that one personally.
They lay in right there and throw the damage as desired. Furia on the low ground on the other side of this are eventually going to have to reckon with the forces that are accumulating, the momentum that is starting to build up on the other end of this launch site building. The only thing separating them and NRG, but that confidence from Legacy was insane. Let me take a moment and appreciate how much this squad has grown since week 1, where they would only really take 3v3s when you absolutely forced them to. Well, this time, they're the ones that throw it at you, knowing that they're in a rough spot. They fully commit to the fight, and man, though they don't live, it makes me gosh darn proud to see them growing like this.
This is just a beautiful reaction to basically what happened with the last 2 rings. Not really being able to call it, just play hard edge. They are surviving on a razor's edge here. All the nades being tossed down onto them. The dome is going to keep them alive as they go for the reset. But finally, it looks like their number is up. It's going to be a combination of Premier along with Unlucky to take out NRG, but they've still done damage onto the lobby. 100 Thieves, though, still playing off of Ultimate High, getting free shots off now as they clean up Furia here. It's the final 5 squads, but it looks like 100 Thieves, the only one's really healthy now. Exit stuck on the low. Unlucky playing from the northeast, also actually as a full 3 here. Now 100 Thieves would scurry back into the lobby. They have been making their presence known.
Yeah, now with this Gibraltar showing up for the end of the game, they can start to clean up again, put their second win on the board, as they know they've already set themselves up for this place. This is their home. Launch site is exactly where they should be most comfortable with, and they've got Unlucky still around. I believe Furia on the low ground to contend with. But still, Furia should have to face off against Unlucky first, or will it be them who manage to force 100 Thieves together with Unlucky?
It does seem like Furia are going to be the first ones out to poke out from their cover, unfortunately here. 100 Thieves and Unlucky don't have to commit onto each other. They can just both commit to second place and make sure that they do not go down in third. And really, that's what they should be focusing on. You can see, he sees the missile swarms going out onto that squad. He sees Furia are stuck behind that rock. And so they understand that they just wait. Now 100 Thieves playing here on height, they can hope that Furia get the knock onto one of the Unlucky members. And that's when they'll instantly turn it onto them. But there it is. The phase breach being used. Vayne spots it out. Nades are thrown down, and the bubble is forced out. Good move coming out from Furia there. That's going to actually put them out of the focus fire from Unlucky as the defensive bombardment goes down. Great pitched out. Good move coming out from Furia there. That's going to actually put them out of the focus fire from Unlucky as the defensive bombardment goes down. Great pivot there, but another defensive bombardment will be thrown down on top of them as Furia don't have a bubble any longer. They're going to try and survive. Tech goes down. Beautiful timing out from 100 Thieves who are looking for this back-to-back now. It's about the opportunity for 100 Thieves to try and turn things on to Unlucky below them. Hakulo goes down, and next as well, Furia on their last legs as Tech goes down once more, and it's just up to one final member. Here's the drop down though, imminent, coming out from 100 Thieves as Scurry took some damage. They actually skirt around that, using that lip to finish off and get that last kill point. Now it's the final 3v3. 100 Thieves need these armor resets, and they've got them as Onmu plays anchor for his squad. Not enough damage out quite yet, but they trade one for one, and it's 100 Thieves with a back-to-back win here, trying to get the plus 12. They have one more game to secure it as we head into game number 6.
A clinical performance from 100 Thieves to be able to execute at that level in an endgame where you and I both looked at Furia's portal and went, hey, that was actually pretty good. Have you turned this game on its head? Not just quite. And now, with 100 Thieves getting that back-to-back win, they're setting themselves up in a position where there's a world in which they rocket themselves from barely making playoffs into being in one of the top 10 places. If they can secure this third win of the day, if they can just keep their first place spot, they can keep that ball rolling and send themselves into playoffs with those extra bit of points.
It's super important because one of the teams that are currently in the top 10, that's Xset, and they haven't had the best of performances today. So there definitely is a world where 100 Thieves can get the plus 12 and propel themselves into the top 10 for playoffs. We're going to find out if they can finish off strong with one game left to go. We got game 6 on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, guys, to the Apex Legends Global Series. These are the Group B and D matches, and we're coming down to the final game of the day, Dia, and 100 Thieves are rallying with 2 wins in a row to make a big showing there, the top 10 for the overall leaderboard, and what a way to do it.
Yeah, the pressure is on. It has been on, and it will continue to be on. We're like one of those pressure cookers with steam coming out of the sides, and 100 Thieves, they are cooking to perfection in here, having pulled out their 2nd win in a row so cleanly, I might add. Their play from launch site, their home, was immaculate, but they weren't the only Titans of that round. We were hyping up NRG almost the entire time, and for very good reason.
I was talking about this over and over again with SSG's rotation, why it's so trepidatious for them having to rotate to the south through launch site because of the moves that NRG were making, that lurk play to ultimately pounce on them. But NRG were just basically patrolling across the hard edge, especially after the last 2 zones. This is a great adjustment for them, but ultimately they found themselves in a tough spot. G2 here trying to go for this Valkyrie redeploy, and I'll be honest, you know, this kind of looked like some of their past redeploys from the beginning of the season here, and so this is why I want to see them go back to old trusty, old faithful in the Wraith and Bloodhound composition. But still, they've had some decent games so far. They are still in the top of the lobby. We'll see if they can try and bounce back after game number 5, because they still have a chance, I believe, of winning out for the day. But you can see Legacy MX have turned it up themselves from being on the border of relegation to now being almost able to maybe make it into playoffs. They are making a name for themselves here in the latter half of the season.
Yeah, this was really, really nice from them. That play from Legacy MX, really heartening for me. And while we got to see that, we also got to see some amazing plays from the likes of Fury on 100 Thieves. The sort of chess match in the final 3 was perfect. And after that, 100 Thieves really had a simple time executing from the high ground that we all knew was going to be powerful for them come that end game. And now as we move into this not just 6th game of the day, not just final game of this round, but final game of the regular season in the professional scene in North America. What these teams have to prove is so much. Whether or not you're going to make playoffs, whether or not you're being relegated, you want to finish off the pro season on a win. 100 Thieves with 23 points should be putting themselves in first place, and if they can seal that first place deal with a win, excellent. If Legacy MX can come back from it all and say, hey, maybe we're still playing for relegation, but they get the win, amazing stuff. No matter who it is, this is going to be the taste that is left in your mouth going out of the pro season, and for some of these teams, into the playoffs.
Yeah, this is a very important game. That does put 100 Thieves, I believe, in first place with 60 points overall, a 23-point game for them, but NRG not too far behind. Despite going down in 7th, we know how aggressive they were and how many kill points they picked up, which was a lot. They actually match 100 Thieves despite going out earlier here. They only pick up 14 points, though. Still, though, keep themselves in the running now. We'll see if NRG can, of course, take game number 6. It's 100 Thieves, though, that are currently the only teams that have 2 wins across the day. NRG, though, with the win in game number 3, they could do the same thing. They can try and maybe sneak away that first place, get that plus 12 to finish off the season strong. A lot of things still on the line. Other teams, though, we're looking at Ghost and Furia, who do find themselves on the right side of the leaderboard for this one, still trying to make that last final push into the playoff region. And for other teams that have already secured themselves playoffs, things are looking a little bit dicey for them. Esports Arena was one team we really wanted to keep an eye on, and they're having one of their worst performances yet.
It's been really difficult for them, and obviously the adaptation with the squad is hitting a little bit hard, especially in such a stacked lobby. I mean, when you've got NRG, last time these 2 groups, ESA, even as the first place team, didn't come away with a single win. This time, of course, things have been a little bit more difficult, but it's sort of the gelling process for them, and it's letting me forgive some of these missteps more than I normally would. Sitting right next to Noble as well, not a terrible look. Noble, who are secure in their playoffs positioning as well, should be more than comfortable, if not satisfied with the results of the day. And what I'd like to see is either of these teams to have sort of a return to form, because any sort of a victory, even top 5 placement for these guys should be enough to vindicate themselves and say, yes, we are worthy of the playoff spot, secure it in their heads before they have to take this break before playoffs do come in. With G2 having a rough game last time as well, I wonder if they can pick up their second win of the day, because like you said earlier, you and I have been going back and forth on G2 for a very long time, and with this change up, I think that we've seen overwhelmingly positive things so far, but if they have another performance like this, or even similar, things could start to go back to the, well, are they just being a little bit unreliable now? Do we not know what G2 we're going to get, not just on the day, but in between the games? And this consistency is something they have to showcase.
Really, I feel like because they understand that they have a playoffs secured, along with the bonus points for playoffs secured, maybe they're trying things out. I want to see them just lock down their Bloodhound gameplay, just refine that to the best of their abilities, instead of trying to spend some of these games limit testing a new composition that, you know, they haven't shown works out as well for them. You know, going for the Valkyrie and Ashe composition just hasn't been the greatest of looks for them today. I mean, the one game that they ended up winning was a circle that ended right outside of Thermal Station over by Harvester. So the strength of this composition remains to be proven. I want to see them go back, but I understand why they would spend today trying to test out this composition more. But here we go, heading into the final game of the day here for Group B versus D, and we have a countdown or lava fissure circle ending.
This is really exciting, especially if you're a Furia fan. If you've been waiting for these guys to show up, now it is coming to them. The zone is going to be in their kingdom, and for a team that's been performing pretty darn consistently today, despite not having pulled out a win, this could be the performance that secures them a spot inside of the playoffs. They've already had such a nice showing today that they should have secured that spot, but to get a win, to really cement your position in those top couple teams today, would make it a certainty. Look out for them in the kill feed, hopefully on the left side of it, as they're going to be contesting with some big titans. As we already know, teams like NRG also like to roam up pretty early on, take some of those train tracks, just like we saw in Game 1.
Yeah, all of our southern teams realizing this is going to be pulling up to the north. They're going to take their time looting here. They're really under no pressure to move early because they know they're going to basically have to play off of edge. They have balloons to play off of, especially renegades here, that they can just kind of bounce and make their way on in if they want to. So they can still take their time. You can see Pal going back for this golden cargo bot. But, oh, it doesn't get a gold bag, unfortunately, off of that as a Gibraltar player. But Furia, like you mentioned, coming up from Countdown, realizing this is where it should end. It doesn't seem like they got a beacon, so they'll have to double back over. And unfortunately for them, they don't have a close beacon in Skyhook. So I think they're just going to have to take the loot over at Trials and just be happy with that and react and respond and maybe eventually make their way over to Lava Fissure to pick up that beacon scan.
Yeah, information, at least initially, not going to be their friend, but Furia, one of the teams that I think we've seen practice during the regular season, being more comfortable with taking more time to get into the zone, make these unorthodox macro plays that do catch a lot of teams off guard more often than not. A sick transition inside of the tunnel will bring us over to Esports Arena. However, a team that, as we mentioned, are still getting back on their feet right now and adapting pretty darn well, I would say, in some situations, but definitely having a tough one today. Are going to be making their way over through Big Mod, and with the powerhouse of this weaponry, perhaps it's their time to take a win.
I will say, even though today's games have been pretty rough on Esports Arena, they typically fare well when they have to go for these hard edge rotates, right? Where they just, where you have these northern poles, they find those Valkyrie redeploys onto really dead spots of the map eventually later on in Ring 4. And so this might actually play into their favor. We'll see how that plays out for them. SSG expecting this one to maybe pull down to the south side of Lava Fissure themselves. Remember, this is a squad that have quick rotates that are able to basically beat out teams in priority, and they get to do that because, well, for this one, they end up dropping Lava Fissure. So for them to be taking this spot, it's probably a good indicator. Again, though, The circles today have been so damn weird.
Yeah.
So weird.
I have
so
no idea.
anything could happen.
Yeah, we could all stack up inside our buildings and then just find out that we're actually going to fragment at this point. It not going to happen in this game, but still crazy stuff. And well, for Furia, they'll have a little bit more time as they finish clearing out trials and now have to look for their next prey. They are a team that does like to get involved in the fights in a third-party sense, so perhaps heading down over around the outside towards Lava Fissure would net some good fruit, especially because north end of Lava Fissure doesn't tend to be contested in zones like this, and it would give them a nice angle on NRG if they want to play upset.
Yeah, NRG are trying to play slow side. They were able to, it looks like, basically skirt past SSG and make their way into the north side of Lava Fissure. Renegades, though, are just going to have to be content with playing on low here off the train tracks themselves. You can see the poke going out across the NRG from Pow. He's still sitting on that white, unfortunately, but he's got the 30-30 with plenty of ammo behind him, so he should find the opportunities to try and poke away at squads that have already made their way on in. But again, the pace of the games with so much on the line for basically almost every team here, where you have to perform every single game, or you can get relegated, miss out on playoffs, miss out on getting the advanced points for playoffs. I love that we still have these stakes, even though it's the last game of the season.
Yeah, so often you'll see that sort of fall by the wayside in the last couple of games, but everybody here wants to make their mark on Pro League and really needs it to be felt. So we'll see if NRG, for example, are able to hold out through that, already sitting in the building with some really nice loot so far, or can anyone dethrone those kings of the Pro League? Right now, Renegades moving their way in. You did mention the excess of ammunition, of resources that they have. One of the other teams that definitely needs to make use of them, Xset, who have already dropped inside of Lava Fissure. And one of the things that I wanted to call out about Xset when we had a moment was the way that they've adapted over the course of the past 3 weeks. Their Valkyrie rotations have gone from unreliable at best to pretty darn good inside of these games. We've seen Xset be able to secure themselves much better positions in the ring, and as such, be able to get not just kills, but placement points to follow them up. And really impressive stuff to see from them as they continue to adapt through the season, and it gives me hope for them inside of these playoffs, where we know they'll be going against the best of the best, and have more than earned their place there.
Now, Bad Boys, one of the squads that have been struggling all season long, and it's so difficult. As right now, they're sitting in 14th place overall in the lobby with 14 points. A win here, though, could maybe propel them into enough points to avoid relegation. They need to hit top 5, top 6, so they need like a 20-kill win to try and avoid relegations here. So their backs are against the wall, but at least they have some decent equipment to do it. They've got the purples, and here's the redeploy to try and avoid a lot of the urban fighting. You can see teams are trying to focus them now, and they'll be able to just fly past all of this and avoid a lot of that fighting. You can see the scans below as well from that Valkyrie passive, and so they can now go ahead and continue to play passively here and just avoid a lot of the fighting, because this is a squad that needs a win, but they also need a lot of kills.
You can only assume it's Era in the area as well, searching for some of those kills, since they made the rotation earlier on, and this time maybe getting a little bit aggressive, paying respect to the fact that it might be NRG, though we, from our omnipotent perspective, know that it isn't. With Neanderthals holding out over by Countdown, though, where Furia originally dropped, they've had a relatively nice rotation over, and a nice spot as well, sort of mirroring 100 Thieves from last time. There are several zones that will pull right in towards their front door, but what's going to be so important about the spot that the Neanderthals hold is keeping everybody else from pushing into their building. It is such an open space for them to control, and if 1-2 squads try and go at you at the same time, it's over.
Yeah, Borden was able to hit that crypto scan for them, so they know that they're pretty comfortable here. We'd love to see the map when we get that opportunity. As you can see, the pace has been slowed down once again. NRG, because of this ring pull, just weren't able to have that kind of same presence they had in game number 5, where they try to frag out, but there it is. You can see the ring scan. It is going to be pulling over towards Lava Fissure. So you're seeing why so many teams have already made their way on in. There is, I would say, like a 15% chance that this can go over towards Countdown. But I would highly bank on this one going over towards Lava Fissure. But I mean, we've been wrong earlier today.
It's true. I mean, so many of us have been caught off guard with Esports Arena, trying to catch somebody else off guard. They're not going to quite find the damage, but instead defensive bombardment will do the trick, buying them a little bit more space to try and move up towards Dorito building.
Oh.
Instead, they eat a lot of damage, though. Noct goes down, and G2 are Uno reverse carding them from game 1, this time being able to take the skirmish on the front foot.
Man, they instantly throw down the defensive bombardment as well to try and punish them. Now they're getting picked apart. Dupe trying to fall back, and Skittlecakes and co are just trying their best to survive. Esports Arena been struggling all day, and it looks like it's going to be another case of them going down early. As a result, it picks that one up. That's a clean sweep for G2. You have to be careful on this kind of rotate. I understand Esports Arena trying to rotate this way, and they typically do, but you have to understand that G2 are still in the lobby. G2 are still here, so you have to imagine that this lurk play is available for them, and that's exactly what happened. So Esports Arena, they have a lot to consider, bowing out early in the final game. Going into playoffs, they will have, of course, the additional points, but that's going to be small solace for them if they still haven't figured out how to play with Noct.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult for them right now, and not expecting a G2 that is definitely on the ups as well. It's two forces that clash when going in different directions. Furia definitely going to be encountering perhaps a force moving in their direction, though, as we saw Ghost taking a really long northern rotate, and now that round 2 is starting to close in, Furia may be able to pick them off. We'll see if they end up getting spotted, if Furia and Ghost end up meeting at all. But it could certainly be the makings of a really big showdown, as both of those teams, with a lot to lose today, could just barely make that cut out for playoffs, or could be kept out until next season.
Yeah, Born is going to be the MVP for his squad there for the Neanderthals. Getting that scan is going to be extremely valuable. There's a chance that this one actually pulls up to the north side of Lava Fissure, just to the east of Ghost Gaming right now. We've seen that circle some time. Ghost Gaming have made their way on in and secured a spot in the donut building on the northern side. So they'll be pretty happy here. This is going to be a very passive position. Not much for them to really be able to do. The only priority now is for Six to try and get that purple Evo shield for himself. So he's the one that's going to be, of course, keeping an eye on the goings-on around them. I believe NRG are down to their southwest right now, playing off the train track houses. And you can see the swap-offs going down just in case of the cryptos that are in play.
That made me so happy. As soon as I heard the drone, everybody dropped their clothes on the floor. It would no crypto for us, no thank you. And instantly goes to know that they could be besieged inside. As you talked about already, NRG right next door have the opportunity to do quite a bit of damage to them as well. So the Evo shield farming is going to be a little bit risky if they end up poking too far out of their building. But 100 Thieves right underneath are in by far the riskier position. Challenging Xset right now. Have already found 2 kills. Can they find that third and final?
Ooh, drone flyby to pick up that banner at the very least, or try to. We'll see if they can try and maybe plug him in. There's a respawn beacon inside Lava Fissure. That one's almost a... it's going to be a farming situation if they go for that one. So we'll see. Maybe they fly out and try to go maybe over towards Landslide to go in for that respawn. We'll find out in just a moment. 100 Thieves just maintaining this position here. They are currently our lobby leaders, with a comfortable 8-point lead over NRG right now. So 100 Thieves trying to go back to back to back. And you can see the nades are coming in. Onmu gets cracked. They have a lot of cover though, and so they should be safe. And really, no one wants to try and push this position when you have so many teams that are still in the area.
No, 100 Thieves definitely trying to hold down, make themselves the rock of this lobby. Until they get that next zone read, though, they won't know whether they have to move or not. This one really actually likely to pull all the way into the west, rewarding the positioning of teams like NRG and forcing 100 Thieves to walk across the low ground into them. Those are the zones that we've seen more often than not, but as we already mentioned, though I have to say what we've seen today is anything anything but usual.
Yeah, if we can, I'd love to check in with the Neanderthals who have that crypto, who have been reliably able to get the beacon scans for us. Lazarus, though, as they're creeping their way through Countdown, taking some damage here, and we'll see. Vizay does have that gold armor, so it's quick resets for him. So he's going to go out on another excursion. Ooh, sweet. Was able to get a knock onto Nano throughout all of this. Been a rough day. I mean, things looked up for CLG. They had a pretty decent performance from game number 1. They ultimately ended up disappearing throughout, and this was a squad that needed to turn it around today. It looks like they are almost destined to go down into the relegation matches.
I'm so sad. We finally ran over to Neanderthals. Where is Blitzen's map? All right, there. Ooh. We finally get the next zone read, and this one's an interesting one. We talked about NRG being rewarded. That's definitely so. We're going to a little bit more standard of a circle, I'll say, off in the east, but it doesn't make this rotation any easier for the Neanderthals.
Xset finally getting cleaned up as G2 show up to the party here. They try to back away to go for that respawn that I was talking about, but they ended up getting farmed. Era coming in for the third party, though. Already got the knock onto Designful, and G2 are about to get knocked out. Gent is the only one alive, forcing out the bubble, but it's still a 1v3. There's the armor swaps as they get thirsted off, and Gentrifying is going to be left to play this one out by himself. Unfortunately for G2 here is really, they were in the top 4, but now it doesn't look like they'll be able to secure that top 3 finish for themselves in today's lobby or in the end of the season.
Question is, for me, who gets this kill? Because right now, he's landing right on top of NRG, or is he going to go and give it over to 100 Thieves? Is there any safe place? There is not! NRG, take him out of the sky!
Ooh, it's just hunting season for NRG, who really put themselves in a beautiful spot to get involved in a lot of these fights from a safe range. And you can see they're also avoiding that northern scramble that a lot of teams end up going for. They think it's the dead space. Ultimately, it becomes very clustered. Ghost Star up there right now with one other squad on the northern side. So NRG playing that house by themselves for now and try and keep them Neanderthals having to deal with Lazarus here on the northeast side, and you gotta do it quickly. They have 20 seconds left to go, and they need to move as Bad Boys spot out that drone. The nade right on top of them. Yubin does dodge that one at the very least, but you can see there's gonna be a big scramble here. We got Lazarus, Bad Boys, we've got Neanderthals as well, and so it might just be, ooh, Lazarus getting the push onto Ghost now, taking out 2, and Ghosts are about to go down.
Keep in mind, with Bad Boys taking to the skies, that Furia are around here as well, somewhere off to the north. Will they be able to capitalize on all this chaos? 3 different squads valking in over Lava Fisher right now. NRG need to be able to absorb this pressure, ward it off, as the Neanderthals end up landing right underneath CLG. Ooh. They're going to get knocked initially and might not be able to make it out of this alive. CLG know they're weak, and it's just Burton left alive, and even that may be short-lived.
Oh boy, he's gonna try and tuck himself in as the defensive bombardment goes down. He needs to find a moment, at least hits themselves, and there we go, but there's almost no opportunity for him to try and recover as he does get spotted out. He shows off his dancing moves there, but he's gonna have a moment now to try and reset. Vizay has to cancel that board as the ring closes it on him. And now he's going to have to worry about NRG defensive bombardment on top of him. He's going to try and port his squad on, but they've already got it knocked. It's going to be Premier Ronnie picking up 2 of those. And so Vizay will be left to try and rat this one out. You can see Tag picking up that thirst as well. Banner will get recovered by Vizay, but you can see that last respawn beacon is off to the northeast. Doesn't seem like he has a mobile respawn either, so Lazarus now ratting this one out. Fight here on the low ground. Zubin pushes forward. It's going to be Renegades on the other side of this one. Bubbles expiring, and Renegades get cleaned up. Bad Boys picked that one up.
That's really good stuff for them, is like you said, they need a really high kill game. It's difficult at this point, but not impossible, and that's what matters. But as they lose 2, things get grimmer and grimmer. Space Station end up finding the kills in the first 2, and Promos is just deciding where his fate lies. Ends up getting a shield bat off, perhaps buying himself some time, but instead he jumps up to the high ground, and again, Furia are waiting to pounce.
Yeah, they have the south side of the tracks basically on lockdown now. So their real big threat is going to be, of course, NRG to their north. Now, that also means that NRG have the pressure alleviated for them. They can concentrate on the northern side, which we saw a lot of teams rotating in. Lazarus was one of them. They did ultimately get finished off now, and Era is going to be another squad moving in as well. But you can see we have a lot of teams still alive. 11 here for this zone, man. Going to be about 3 or 4 soon because there aren't too many places to play off of. SSG should be able to walk this one in. It's a little bit risky. They can take that zip if they wanted to, but you can see Noble now moving up. Unlucky still alive. Unlucky currently believe in the top 3, so there's a shot for Unlucky to try and get that win today. But Furia are starting to really show up, picking up more and more kills here.
How are they doing it for a squad that needed to show up today? They've taken it upon themselves to, in the last game, just absolutely decimate. A nice tether there from Era almost gets them a kill, but instead, it's going to be NRG that end up picking up even more. So much death in the favor of NRG right now, but Sweet ends up going down, and it's 2 Hakulo from Furia. Will Space Station Gaming continue to fall on the low ground as well? Furia are pushing up on NRG, trying to take down our Kings.
This is massive, but NRG recovered. They got that res onto him. They have the armor swaps down for him as well. And so Furia lose out on that opportunity to knock out NRG. We'll see if NRG can match 100 Thieves for 2 wins today and maybe take the first place overall. NRG, they've had an amazingly consistent season. Now they're going to try and finish this one off strong. You can see for this final circle, a lot of teams still on the platforms. Era being one of them. Bowser is close to his phase bridge, so when they need to cross on over, they will have that available for them. Oxy will be in a beautiful position basically to scan the entire circle from this spot as well on that Bloodhound. It's going to come down to, are there any cryptos still alive? Are there going to be EMPs? Who has the timing on these defensive bombardment? It doesn't seem like there are any cryptos still alive in this lobby. So that's going to be one less concern. Everyone's still alive.
Something about this, though. Something is
wait.
just pushing at me that this is a Furia game, and is they're going to be able to third-party this. Era Eternity start off the fight with some nice damage, but 100 Thieves are the ones that end up picking up the kills. A Kraber in their hands, but Era so low with Bowser the last one left alive. Furia haven't been able to push in just yet. Instead, NRG are fighting a war on 2 fronts as the EMP comes in. Furia have to back away, but NRG are in shambles.
There were 2 cryptos still alive. And NRG, oh, they might be on the last legs here. Their armor swaps have already been spent. As you can see, Nathan and Sweet trying their best to survive. They get cleaned up. That's going to be a combination of Furia and Era to help that one out. Furia now on top of this building here. And it looks like Furia trying to make that last push might have succeeded, securing a spot in playoffs. They've hit top 5. Here in this game, they are currently in 6th place overall. Now, this is their ticket to make it into the playoffs, or at least secure that spot. Defensive bombardment going down. It's the final 4 squads remaining. As you can see, 100 Thieves forcing out that bubble, but it's Tech left once again by himself as he takes on CLG. He should have a quick armor swap, but now he needs to run out. He gets body blocked, and he does. He secures that kill onto CLG, but now the ring closes in on him as he hits that bat. He will go down. 100 Thieves do it. They didn't have to do much in this game, but they get the 3-peat. They get the win, and they come out on top today in 1st place.
This is the stuff that your champions are made of. 100 Thieves, the roster that ended up winning all of ALGS in the season previous, now send themselves out of the regular split with that 3-peat. And there is a reason that they are your champions. It is their ability to clutch out those wins at the very last second. Furia got so close, though, and with that performance, I have to say, they secured themselves a playoff spot today, based, of course, on the way the points shake out in the other lobby and their placement today. It seems only logical that they make it.
Yeah, ultimately, I think 100 Thieves with that plus 12, that'll give them 25 points overall. Which I don't think XSET did enough today to hold on to that playoff spot. So there are so many amazing stakes that it's really difficult trying to keep track of all this, especially when we have, of course, the parent stream going on right now, the ALGS main broadcast for groups Group A versus C. So we need to wait things out. We need to see what happens and let the dust settle before we can make any concrete calls on who secured playoffs, who secured avoiding relegations and all this other stuff. But man, we have had some amazing games today, Dia, and you know what, we're gonna wait it out one more time. I believe we have one more break before we're able to announce the winners for today. So we're gonna take one last short break. When we get back, hopefully we'll have an interview and we'll be able to announce the winners. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, guys, to the Apex Legends Global Series. All of our matches for the day are done, and we are still tabulating the final results, or actually, we'll have it very shortly. But man, what an amazing game number 6. 100 Thieves do it. They take back to back with the 3-peat victories there, Dia.
Yeah, it was amazing stuff from them, and a team that was just on the edge of being in playoffs, pushed themselves not just through the playoffs, but into what is likely to be one of those top 10 positions. We'll wait for the scores on the other side, but let's see how many points they accumulated over that one. A 24-point game, nothing short of impressive. 4 squads wiped out solely at the hands of 100 Thieves.
And for Team Furia there, finding themselves with a second place finish in game number 6. They were 6th overall, I believe, tied in 6th place with Renegades. And so with that last game, they should be able to move themselves up quite a bit, and they were a team that were on the bubble of making playoffs or not, and I think with today's performance they have done it. But other teams that we're looking at, CLG, Era Eternity, I don't think they did quite enough, despite having a final finish, decent final finish here, to actually avoid relegation.
Yeah, I've got to say though, with teams like CLG and Era both appearing in the top 5, not once but twice throughout the night, and even more actually, I believe, if we count up all of them in their placements throughout the season. What I think that they have accomplished is at least giving themselves a nice sense to end the season on, and a confidence, especially going into the Pro League qualifiers that they'll have to play through, because CLG came into today sitting 40th with 1 point, and now to be able to go forward and at least have collected several more almost wins today in professional level lobbies should make them feel a lot better after a season that has beat them down repeatedly.
Yeah, I mean, we have to understand that the overall leaderboard doesn't tell the full, because you do have those days where if you end in the bottom 5, you get no points whatsoever. So that can happen to you. So there are some takeaways there on how things can work out, and really how you should not judge a team completely by the overall scores. But it was at least a good turnaround, a good beginning of the day for CLG, and a decent finish there for them at the very least. But one big question mark heading into playoffs is going to be that team right there sitting on 18th place for that final game, Esports Arena. They struggled more today than they have in the entire split.
Yeah, their identity really has been thrown into question, and while Esports Arena are still undoubtedly a talented squad, we know that all of their individual pieces are amazing. Together, they have yet to identify what their way of playing the game together as a 3-man squad is, and I look forward to their growth inside of the playoffs, but more than anything, I am nervous for them, because coming out of, I believe, the first half of the split as the #1 squad and being able to maintain that all the way until today, they've not only likely lost their spot, but at this point, I think have to be very worried about what they're actually going to do come playoffs, come that match point. And I can only hope that between now and then, they end up figuring out that special something to send them forward.
Yeah, and for a team that was performing so well all season long, but the last 2 matches really not going their way, it's so unfortunate, because they were basically there to almost secure that extra bag at the end of the season, at the end of the split. We have to remember that first place in the overall leaderboard walks away with 30,000, second with 15, third with 12,500, and fourth with 10,500. With these last 2 performances, with these last 2 days, they might actually not be in the top 4 anymore. They might have actually been knocked down. And so it's really unfortunate to have such a huge running start at the beginning of the season and then just falling short in your final 2 days. So we'll see, though, if Esports Arena can bounce back for the playoffs and what kinds of adjustments they can make. Let's go ahead and take a look, though. Once again, this is what happened to Esports Arena in the last game, running into G2 on these lurk plays. They're able to catch them out. They exited early on. 100 Thieves, G2, so many squads showing up today, but ultimately it was 100 Thieves. G2 ending up getting caught out on this rotation here. You can see a lot of the scramble on the south side of the zone. This was just a very rough final circle for teams to play out.
It really was, and Space Station Gaming, who ultimately got left on that low ground, really had a tough time. This was such a good take, though, from NRG with the stick to be able to walk back in, reclaim their building. They ended up almost piloting themselves to a win, but they just drew a little bit too much attention. With 4 squads piling in on top of them, all 100 Thieves had to do on the outside was wait.
Yeah, the EMPs were coming in as well. Just so many crypto surviving for this last fight made it that much more difficult. Imagine if that EMP doesn't come in, your armors don't get hits, you can fight back with a bit more staying power there. Ultimately, though, Lee Fury clean this one up before the next team shows up for this one. Actually, yeah, there we go. Fury cleans that one up, but Tech doesn't have the opportunity, the time to run out in the zone, and 100 Thieves just watch on and is like, okay. Yeah, we'll take the free win here for the 3rd win of the day.
Had CLG not tried to jump into the building, I mean, at least Tech makes it out. At least he gets to play the game. But unfortunately for him, you know, Furia got what they came for, what they committed for. The wipe inside of the building. They win that battle, but they do not win the war. 100 Thieves with their eyes on the prize the entire time. From here on out, really, cleaning up G2 and then being able to control their movement in through the south, made really good use of things like the Ash to be able to reposition themselves on a whim. And a lot of the thing is that the success from today in a lot of these games was determined off teams that were making really good use of the Ash, that were adapting to the new additions to the meta. Whether they be ultimately the best or not doesn't matter, but the fact is that they can use those tools faster than anyone else can and in better ways.
Finally got to see some good things out of Era Eternity here as well throughout the day, but I think, you know, today's games were a bit wonky. There were some strange rotations. I think Game 5 really characterized that with NRG catching them out over at Fragment East. I mean, I think today did put on display not just the kind of consistency coming out from squads, but actually the adaptability when it comes to these really wonky zones. We had extremely wonky zones, and that was the kind of adaptation that NRG made in game number 5 to just commit hard edge and play a very like bounty style where they were trying to go after team fight after team fight. Ultimately left that window open. 400 Thieves, I mean, today was a good day for them overall, taking the last 3 wins. Not only did they secure a spot, I feel like, of course, securing a spot in the top 10, but that's also extra prize money for themselves. So it's a nice little sweet finish to the end of the season. But now it's about the playoffs. When it comes to the big boys, when it comes to everyone really gunning for that first place position in the playoffs, it's going to be different. It's going to be you have to kind of figure out, what are we going to do when Sentinels are in the lobby? What are we going to do when TSM's in the lobby as well? And TSM now, with the addition of Verhulst, they are doing amazingly as well.
They really are, and just as an update, because we will be throwing you guys into the parent stream shortly after we finish those final scores, you've also got to look out for other teams that are going to be in the playoffs. W have been doing extraordinarily well today, with 2 first-place finishes and 1 second so far. They are currently top fragging inside of the Group A versus Group C standings, and that's really exciting because they're another team that has really been on the upswing recently and can challenge a lot of squads with the way that they also abuse different tools in the meta to their favor, is the best way of putting it.
Yeah, and so we are, of course, waiting for the final tally just to take a look at the overall in just a moment. But man, today's games have been absolutely fantastic. We still have a lot more games at play as well. We were talking, of course, that teams were worried about relegation, and that's because Challengers is taking place right now. I believe you cast the EMEA Challengers. I've been casting the North American ones, and so that's why there's so many stakes today. It's not just about making playoffs, it's about avoiding relegations, and some of the teams, I don't know if they were able to do enough. Teams like Neanderthals, Unlucky, Legacy MX, right there on the bubble. All 3 of those teams that played out today were tied with 6 points, yet teams like Bad Boys and BW, CLG, Era trying to fight back. And so we're going to figure out who is also going to be relegated at the end of the day.
Yeah, and going up against some of the best squads that we've had to offer through the trials and tribulations of Challenger Circuit. We are almost there, though. We do have those scores ready for you very shortly to be able to, well, talk about who ended up making it through the fire today. So let's take a look. 100 Thieves, no surprise, coming out on top with 84 points on the day, but NRG right behind them.
Yep. And so 100 Thieves with a back-to-back-to-back wins there will be able to secure that, and that should be a huge momentum boost and really help them out when it comes to playoffs, getting that better seeding as well and the additional points. G2 though, despite the different looks, they still performed admirably, ending up 5th place overall, and unlucky. Was that going to be enough for them to maybe make playoffs? Let me see, that's what, 7 points for them. They were at 6. 13 cutoff was around 11, so we still have to wait to see what happens in the groups A and A versus C match, and so their fate is still left up in the air.
Yeah, a team like Furia, though, coming in 3rd today, do get an additional 7 points to add to what was already an impressive 11. That should put them right up around that 11th to 13th place after everybody gets their points added from today. Well, they'll reevaluate their standings, but should be making that cutoff into the playoffs. But to know for sure, like you talked about, we need to know what is happening in the other groups, and what better way to do that, Jamerson, than to send everybody off to see them very shortly.
Yeah, but let's go ahead and take a look at the other half of the leaderboard here. Really tough day for Lazarus, Neanderthals, and Noel, but most notably, very tough day for Esports Arena. 25 points, and now today is the first day where they end up only walking away with 1 point on the overall leaderboard. They were our first place team. Basically for the majority of the split since week 2, week 3. Now they have fallen from grace, and they find themselves in about 4th place, or maybe even down to 5th, depending on how Complexity and TSM perform today.
Yeah, NRG at this point have definitely overtaken them, though, and they get to be the kings of your first split. Until we get into the playoffs, though, we'll have to wait to see if Esports Arena can gel a little bit more. If the teams that have made that cutoff get to continue forward with a surge of power. 100 Thieves definitely coming off of a high right now, but with playoffs on the horizon, with Group A versus Group C going on right now as we speak, Jamerson, I think it's time to wrap this one up.
Yeah, so thank you all so much for tuning in to the B stream today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We definitely did. I just want to, of course, shout out our amazing production crew and everyone that was able to make all of this happen. But we still have more Apex going on. So let's go ahead and send it on over to the A versus C matches that are still taking place. They'll be able to do a final tally and figure out who's making it to playoffs. So thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll see you all in the future for more Apex Legends. Thank you all so much, and have a good night.